What is up? Okay, we're back. YouTube. I wanted to pull you into this live stream because I'm having fun. We are watching this interview between Danny Jones, Bart Sibrel, and Charles. Oh God, why can't I remember his last Duke? Charles, tell me, Charles. Yes, Charles Duke, the astronaut. Okay. Charles Duke has landed on and walked on the moon. Bart Sibrel swears up and down, according to his research, the moon landing is fake. See, no human could go through the Van Ryan belt, according to Bart Sibrel. Now, this interview just dropped on Danny Jones, and it has been so far very entertaining. So entertaining, in fact, before I could really get into it, I wanted to make sure I streamed this so that my YouTube friends could see this as well, because this is truly a masterpiece that Danny Jones put together here. This interview, see, one word comes to mind when I think about Bart, and it's asshole. He just comes across as an asshole. He's rude. He's overbearing. He's closed-minded. And one of the most dangerous things, in my opinion, is that he's 150% certain that he's right. And oh, that's dangerous. Okay, let's go. Let's continue here.
To the military graveyard, which isn't too far from here, about 50 miles from here. And there he is, his tombstone, United States Air Force.
From here?
Yeah, it's about 50 miles from here.
Okay, so you know what? Actually, I'm going to go back just a moment here because what Bart claims here is that he received word of a deathbed confession that this gentleman confessed to a homicide when he was in the military to his son on his deathbed. The gentleman told his son on his deathbed, apparently, that he murdered someone when he was in the military to cover up the fact that the moon landing was fake. That indeed his father believed his compatriot was going to leak this classified information that the moon landing was fake and that they were helping produce a fake moon landing. Because his father could not have this. He murdered him. Now I say, if you're in the military and your battle buddy is going to do something dumb, something that could put a mission in jeopardy, murdering them is not the first thing you're going to do. Right? Like, you're going to go to your CO, your commanding officer, and you're going to tell him what's going on. Before anything, you're not freaking murder someone because you think they might leak classified data. That is not in the guidebook. that is not how that goes. Okay? And feel free, anybody, chime in that has any experience with even the lowest level of dealing with classified or secret information. Murdering someone you think might leak it, that's not how that's handled. So Bart says that this gentleman murdered this guy because he thought he was gonna tell the truth that the moon landing was fake. And so this guy's son, of all the people in the world he could reach out to, of all the government officials and all of the protective services and investigative services, both local and federally, he called Bart Sibrel and told Bart Sibrel about it. Okay. Now, Bart Sibrel will probably try to make it sound a lot better, like it's not a bunch of horse shit. So I'm going to let him tell it.
Bart, so your basic story was when you were a kid, you were obsessed with the moon missions. You said you were asleep when they first landed on the moon, but you were a huge fan of NASA and a big believer in the moon landing. And at one point, something happened, and you did a 180. Out of everything, and I know you cover a lot of ground with your theories, and in your documentaries, you do a very thorough job laying out every single point. But like, to you, what are like the top two or three reasons that you believe that the moon landing was a hoax?
Well, we can get into that, and I have evidence to show on all of those. The first, we have an eyewitness who saw them film Apollo 11 at Cannon Air Force Base. He confessed to it as he was dying. And he also confessed to a homicide.
This is why the headphones help, because you get, sometimes you're not talking into the microphone.
Oh, well,
just make sure you keep it like this far away from your mouth when you're talking.
This far, okay.
Get it nice and close.
So we have an eyewitness and who was fearing the judgment of God as he was dying, and he confessed to a homicide. And if you want, you can bring up that image. It's image D1. This gentleman's name is Cyrus Eugene Akers. He was the chief of security at Cannon Air Force Base, which is the special operations or intelligence headquarters for the Air Force. And as he was dying, in the presence of his son, there's a picture of him, General, if you want to look at it.
Okay. This is Cyrus Eugene Akers.
That's right.
How did you discover this guy?
His son contacted me.
Okay.
Based after his father confessed. And the first thing he confessed to was a homicide, that he felt like he needed to confess that he had murdered somebody in the past. And his son found out that he murdered a fellow employee at Cannon Air Force Base. And the military police came in and investigated the homicide. And when they asked him, why did you kill him? He said it was to cover up the moon landing fraud, which they both had eyewitnessed. And he felt that his friend, who thought it was morally wrong, was going to go public with it. And so he murdered him to keep it a secret. If you go to D2, we can watch a 3-minute video of the son and see his testimony about it.
Okay, so this is a deathbed confession that the son told you about.
Correct.
And there was a police investigation into it.
There was a military police investigation.
Military police.
Right.
Okay, is there any hard evidence of this investigation, and what was the outcome of it?
Well, after his father's confession, which was videotaped.
Oh, it was on video.
That's correct. When they went out one day, their house burned down. They believe it was set intentionally by somebody who knew about the confession. After all, they had told the Air Force, military police, that the moon landing was fake. They reported that to their superiors. They found out there was a videotape of the confession, and so they burned their house down. And in fact,
obviously,
who burned their house down?
Whoever. It was arson, I presume, the CIA or whoever.
And how long after this confession was the house burned down?
Within, I think, a couple of weeks, because They had video of the confession and they had some documentation. In fact, the gentleman's Air Force file.
I like that he's like, when it comes to, the composition of the Van Ryan belt, he can get it down to like 1/10, 1/1,000,000th of the correct number, but he can't remember if this was like a couple weeks or like a couple days, couple months, something like that. It's only like one of the most craziest, pivotal, mind-blowing claims of the claims you make, but you're kind of hazy on the timeline. Okay.
File has been completely deleted. We used a Freedom of Information Act request. They said there's no Cyrus Eugene Akers. There's never was in the Air Force, and yet I went to the military graveyard, which isn't too far from here, about 50 miles from here, and there he is, his tombstone, United States Air Force.
Okay, so they say they have no record of him, wasn't in the Air Force, but he was able to drive down the street and find a guy with the same name on a tombstone. Did you take a picture? Did you get a DNA test? Like, how do you... It could just be another guy with the same name. And did you even take a picture? Did you even take a picture of the tombstone?
From here?
Yeah, it's about 50 miles from here.
Wow.
And he's in a military cemetery, and it says United States Air Force, Cyrus Eugene Akers, and that he served in Vietnam and Korea. And his son lived right across from the base. He said he was chief of security there. And so if you play video D2, we can have a video of the son and put it in his own words.
President Johnson in 1968, okay? In Cannon Air Force Base in 1968, he said by the time he got there, that there was already 2 large hangars that were connected. There was hundreds of dump trucks that came in and dumped sand and stone, and cement powder was powdered over the top of all that to make it look like a lunar landscape. They had men that fashioned it into a lunar landscape, he said. Okay, I've never known my dad to lie, so this all took me by surprise. What's that all about? So anyway, he said that in front of the airplane hangars was pole framing with large canvas tents that was concealing the inside of the staging area. Inside the staging area, on flatbed trucks, was uncrated the lunar lander that was reassembled back inside the hangars. All of the walls were painted flat black, and the ceilings as well. He was sworn to secrecy by the NSA, and they would put him in prison for breaking that oath. When Dad saw the moon landing on TV, he cried. He said he knew that what he had witnessed on TV was exactly what they recorded in that hangar. There was no reason for them to go flying around and everything. They had detailed high-definition photos of the landing area. There was no reason for them to go flying around to a different landing area that almost exhausted their fuel, except for drama, because everything had gone so smoothly. Nothing, so it had to be something. Anyway, Dad was one of 3 guards that guarded the inside of the front entrance. There was a list of 15 people who could enter. No one else was allowed by order of President Johnson. And here is that list. And I gave it to Bart Sibrel as well. And he checked out a lot of these names, and he says he can verify a lot of these people and what they do. And I come across a couple myself. Anyway, President Johnson, Neil Armstrong, Edwin Aldrin, Werner von Braun, Robert Emmenegger, Gene Kranz, James Webb, Joe Kerwin, Dr. Thomas Payne, Glenn Looney, Dr. Christopher Kraft,
These are people.
Dr. James Van Allen, General Trudeau, Lieutenant Colonel Donald Simon, and Grant Norrie. My dad, he raised me by the book. I know he didn't lie to me. And as I started seeing more and more of what he was telling me was true, I realized my dad wasn't lying.
All right, so this is you would say this is the top piece of evidence that you...
No, it's the most
Sorry, I had to change my headset over.
compelling to people because we have a testimony of it. Now, if I may ask...
It is a testimony, but
Okay, here we go.
it's not actual hardcore evidence.
I understand. We've got 3.5 hours. He's got 40 minutes head start on me.
Yes, he
and
does.
so I can present my evidence. And I have a...
Tell me I did not call that. Come on, y'all. I totally called that. I said he's starting 40 minutes in. I promise he's gonna bitch about it. He's gonna be chomping at the bit.
I have a couple of questions.
Like, God forbid the astronaut be allowed to speak first and have the floor. You know, the guy that risked his life and limb so your fat ass could sit there and talk shit like you know what you're talking about.
If I climbed Mount Everest and was known for climbing Mount Everest and got an...
This dude is not climbing Mount Everest. Start with something attainable, Bart. Like if I cross the street.
Got an award or a medal, and everyone... I was hired at companies as their CEO for having climbed Mount Everest. And somebody came along and started saying, you didn't do it. It was filmed in a TV studio. I certainly wouldn't fly and make an airport change and stay overnight in a hotel and go to podcast to defend that I'd climbed Mount Everest. I wouldn't waste my time. So why are you here?
Me?
Was he going from podcast to podcast defending that he went to the moon?
Yeah. If you walked on the moon and it's so obvious that you walked on the moon, I wouldn't fly anywhere to debate somebody whether or not I walked on Mount Everest if I...
Oh my God. This is why Buzz Aldrin punched this guy in the face.
did. So why are you here?
I'm here to tell my story. He asked me to come and share my story. Did I walk on the moon? And I did walk on the moon. The evidence is overwhelming that we landed on the moon. And so I've told my story for the last 50-something years, almost, or whatever it is.
He's a
We
fucking
landed
astronaut?
in 72. So I have been asked to share my experience by reputable people, and so I do that. And I am not lying. I landed on the moon, and the evidence is overwhelming.
Well, actually, the opposite is true. People can say anything. The evidence is not overwhelming.
What is
And-
evidence?
Hang on, hold on a second.
we'll
hold
get-
on, hold on a
into-
second, Bart.
we'll get
Hold
into
on.
that.
Let's lay out some more of your evidence.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, you retired a general, right? Okay. What was your security clearance?
Top secret.
Okay. So when you have a top secret, you're not allowed to tell your wife or your children, right?
What?
Whatever the secrets are. Whatever secrets you have
depends,
as a
dude.
top secret clearance. If you told your wife or your children, you would be violating your oath. Is that right?
In the military, that's true, but then
Okay.
we were. NASA did not have us swear an oath that we are lying or not lying.
I understand, but the point is, you have top secret clearance, and telling your wife or your children would be violating that oath. So your oath to the corrupt United States federal government includes lying to your wife and to your children. Now, there are 100,000 trials every year in America.
So I had a secret clearance, and because I didn't go home every night and tell the wife and kids what it was I was working on, I was lying to my family. Oh, my Lanta, y'all. This guy is something.
90% of the people are guilty, and yet 100,000 people raise their hand and swear that they're telling the truth. So does every Nazi war criminal. They look like benevolent grandfathers, and yet they go smiling through life and denying to the very end that they committed these crimes, which they did. Now, if you're willing to lie.
Did he just equate NASA with Nazi war criminals? Ugh.
Lie to your wife and to your children, why should we believe you?
Believe me about what?
Well, you just said you're willing to lie to your wife and children.
Oh my God. Did you? Okay, tell me you did not see this bullshit, okay? And let me spell it out for you. He asked him, does he have a secret clearance? He says, yes. He goes, oh, that means you'll lie to your family. Huh? Yeah, that means you'll lie to your family because you have a secret clearance. So since you'll lie to your family, why should we believe what you're saying now? How do you work with that, folks? That's not somebody that wants to have an honest conversation. It's not. See, like people that want to have an honest conversation, they're okay with being wrong from time to time. But I think it's pretty clear that Mr. Bart here probably wrote 1 to 500 books about how the moon landing was fake, and he has a very vested stake in keeping it that way. I mean, it's so obvious. And on the other hand, you have a guy that actually landed on the fucking moon who is, I mean, I can't even imagine what is going through this gentleman's head right now. I mean, this is, again, here, let me just give you a little reminder. This is Buzz Aldrin and this guy.
Calling a kettle black if ever thought of it. Saying I'm misrepresented. Away from me. You're a coward and a liar and a thief.
Okay, so let me turn that volume down because I'm probably going to get copyrighted for it. but look, that's Buzz Aldrin, who is like, I think 78 at the time. And this is the same man saying, if you ever thought you made a representative by way, let me see. So Buzz Aldrin is telling him, hey, get away. This guy right here, this Bart guy, is saying, oh, you're a liar. You're dishonest. You're a fraud. Buzz Aldrin says, get away. He doesn't. Buzz Aldrin pops him in the face. Oh. Boom. Slow-mo for you. Yep. Got him. Good. Rocked him right in the chin. So we'll take solace in that as we continue through this interview. That Buzz Aldrin did indeed punch this man right in the face.
To keep your oath to the corrupt federal government. So if you're willing to lie,
I'm not lying to them. I'm not lying to anybody. I'm telling them the truth. I landed on the moon.
Just because somebody has, I don't think it's fair to say just because he has a top secret clearance and he's under an oath to protect government secrets, that doesn't mean that he is inherently a liar.
That's beyond not fair. That's just straight bullshit. To think that your audience would be dumb enough to fall for that in this day and age. Yikes.
I understand that.
And he also said
that shows that he is willing to lie to his wife and children. And if he's willing to do that, he's willing to lie to the rest of the world. So that's my point. No Nazi war criminal has ever come forward and turned himself in. And when arrested.
No, Danny, and you shouldn't have said sure. You should have said, no, bro, you're wrong. There's a difference between security clearance to protect the United States and flat out being a fraudulent liar, which is what lying about being on the moon would be. Give me a fucking break.
And interrogated. Not a single one confessed, even though they were guilty. I'm just mentioning that. So either the gentleman we saw is lying or you're lying. One of the two. So would a general with top secret clearance be more likely to lie, or would a sergeant on his deathbed who confessed to a homicide be more willing to tell the truth?
I think there's crazy people out there. There's lots of crazy lunatics out there who will say anything and make up stories. And the same thing is true that
and one of them is sitting across from me.
Well, I don't think so. I don't necessarily think that. I think that anybody who is in a high level military position that has to protect government secrets is going to protect their oath. It doesn't mean they're a liar. That means that they're protecting national secrets, something they swore to do and devoted their career to. And if they divulge those secrets, they will go to prison for it. And there's been many cases where people have done that, have been sent to prison by the federal government for blowing the whistle on things and following whistleblower protocol. So I don't think we're going to get anywhere by calling people liars. First of all,
well,
second of all,
I'm not. What I'm saying is either the gentleman we saw who was lying as he's dying, or you're lying. Only one of them is the true. Right?
Okay.
Either that guy's lying while he was dying, confessing to a homicide.
Sure. What's your point?
Well, I'm just bringing that to the audience's attention.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Now, I had a little side note. Who do you think killed JFK?
I have no idea.
Clue.
Huh?
Okay.
I believe. Well, I know what this.
What's your personal opinion?
I don't. My personal opinion is I don't remember Oswald or whatever his name is. I don't remember the name.
Lee Harvey Oswald.
Lee Harvey.
The government's
Oswald.
position was that he acted alone and he was the sole shooter of JFK.
Yeah.
That's what you believe. Yeah. Well, 75% of Americans disagree. The gentleman's relatives disagree. Bobby Kennedy Jr. says he's 100% certain
I don't know what this has to
that
do
he
with
was
the moon
murdered by
landing.
the CIA because he was going to abolish them. And then a few years later, Robert McNamara, before he died, he was defense secretary during the Vietnam War. He confessed that the whole reason that the war was started, which 90% of the public was against, was they fabricated an attack by the North Vietnamese on an American ship in the Gulf of Tonkin. Even Wikipedia says it was falsified. Now, Congress passed a law called the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, which led to the deaths of 3 million people, including 58,220 of their own citizens.
I feel like
so
I'm
if
in
they're
my 8th
willing
grade
to
history
kill their own
class.
president, willing to kill 58,220 of their own citizens, I don't think they're going to have a problem faking a video image of the moon. In fact, NASA has never kept a schedule in its entire existence, except the most complicated one of all time. Somehow they were ahead of schedule. You see that? So here's some names on here, and I wondered if you knew those names. He was very specific. He kept this list as a souvenir. So do you know who President Johnson is? You know Neil Armstrong, Edwin Aldrin, Werner von Braun. Who's Robert Ebenecker?
I don't know.
Are you familiar with Cannon Air Force Base?
Not really. I've been to Cannon, landed there and refueled, but I've never been stationed there.
So what does special ops mean in the Air Force?
It's just what you're saying, special ops,
Top secret stuff.
generally.
Yeah. Okay. What about Joseph Kerwin?
Joe Kerwin was an astronaut, doctor, medical doctor. That's the Joe Kerwin I know.
What about Thomas Paine?
Thomas Paine was head of NASA.
Okay. Christopher Kraft?
He was head of Johnson Space Center, but he's also head of Mission Control.
What about Arthur Trudeau?
I don't know him. I don't remember him.
He's general of Army intelligence. What about Donald Simon?
I don't remember him.
Grant Norrie?
Are we going somewhere?
Yeah, those people we
sir?
couldn't track down.
What
They're
was the
either-
last one you said? Grant Norrie?
Yeah.
Oh,
What do you
never heard
think?
of that
He's
one?
either NSA or CIA. We couldn't track him down. So
I guess the point here is that,
Yes,
and I
could we
can
get to
attest
one?
to this.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me. I've lost my.
Right. Let me sum it up for you. The one of the main reasons for me, and I think I'm speaking for a lot of other folks when I say this, is that when it comes to the Apollo missions happened in the middle of the Cold War during the peak of government distrust. That's when we know, according to all the declassified documents by the CIA and the FBI, is that the government was lying and deceiving the public more than ever. I mean, I don't know how much they're doing now, but as far as all the documents that we have, that was the peak. That was when the president of the United States was murdered. That's when we did the Gulf of Tonkin, got into the Vietnam War. The government started doing a secret mind control program with using LSD and other drugs, and that there was the Manson family murders and all of this stuff, right? So when people look at this stuff and they're learning the history of the Cold War, and they see that the most astonishing feat of mankind ever happened right in the middle of all of that stuff, people just, I think they get taken back by it. Like, so the government was lying about all this other stuff, but the one thing they didn't lie about was the most amazing feat of mankind. Does that make sense to you? Does that sort of logic, does that make sense? Why people...
I get that. But at the same time, then when they have just lied to us about the astronauts that died in the fire, wouldn't they have just misled us about Apollo 13 and just made us think, nothing really went wrong? It was a smooth flight. They just couldn't get to the moon because of a breeze or whatever. It's like, I understand that argument. But at the same time, like, well, then they would have just done that with everything to make themselves look, pretty much perfect, like to have a great track record, and then the American people would have no problems at all, because even then people were happy we went to the moon, but even shortly after we're bitching about the bill, right? Because it was very expensive.
People would question that.
Question Apollo?
Yes, just based on all of the other strategic deception that was happening within the government, like MK Ultra, mind control experiments that were going on, the Vietnam War, the assassination of President Kennedy, the Gulf of Tonkin, all of that stuff. It was right in the middle of all of that, the Bay of Pigs, right? There was Operation Northwoods that got declassified, where the Joint Chiefs of Staff wanted to fly an airplane with nobody in it as a drone and blow it up as a pretext to invade Cuba.
Killing Americans. They were willing to kill Americans to fake an attack on Cuba.
This is real declassified stuff that's come out in the federal government with the Warren Commission and all of this stuff. So
the same people who would later approve the Apollo program.
So that's
you're saying we never landed on the moon?
Well, no. What the question is?
You didn't know that before you got here?
No,
Charlie.
You're a really good actor.
I really didn't know that.
Did you ever win the Academy Award for Best Actor?
I really didn't know that you believe that we lied on 6 missions that landed on the moon.
Charlie, does it make sense to you?
That's right.
Why...
That's how arrogant the federal government is. Now, if I may have my 40 minutes to answer your question.
Hold on one second. I want to make sure this lands with him. Does it make sense why people would question that based on all of the other bullshit and lying that was going on, that we know was actually all the other stuff that we know for a fact was deception?
To me, Apollo was real.
To you, but I'm saying...
No, wait a minute. In the United States, there were 400,000 people working on Apollo.
Right.
Well, let me...
Just a minute. Let me finish.
You had 40 minutes already. I've only had 10.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay.
Forgive me.
That's one of the must be real because of 400,000. And of course, every year that
Oh my
number
God.
increases. There are 400,000 tellers at Bank of America. But do you really think what the teller knows and what the CEO knows about corruption in the bank are identical? I interviewed Eugene Krantz. He told me that someone in the command center at the console can tell no difference whatsoever between a simulation and an actual flight. Do we really think the CIA is so stupid to tell the guy making the glove or the door or the boot, hey, we're really not going to the moon, be sure not to tell anybody? And that's why they had you astronauts at the command center to cover the mistakes about faking it. Once the rocket went up, there's only 3 eyewitnesses to the mission and no independent press coverage. So if you add people who delivered food and made paper clips and did the printing and the contractors and all their secretaries and food vendors, you could probably pad 400,000. But the atomic bomb involved 129,500 people, and only 8 people knew what they were building. So if someone in the command center cannot tell the difference between a real flight and a simulated flight, how can the public watching it from their living room or people years later? So that argument is flat. It doesn't go anywhere. And neither does the argument that the Russians would have spilled the beans, because I know somebody who works in the command center of the Chinese Space Agency. He said everybody there knows that the moon missions are fake and they're blackmailing NASA because Congress passed a law forbidding space technology to be sold to China, and they're receiving it anyway by blackmail. If I had a picture of a world leader with a prostitute, I could upload it to the internet, and now it's worth nothing. Or I could blackmail them year after year after year. And that's what the Soviet Union is doing. Putin knows. He wasn't surprised to find out that the moon missions are fake, and neither is China. So that doesn't fly either. We're being blackmailed, which is another.
Okay, so that's a pretty bold claim. Bart seems to have a lot of those. Somehow, some branch of the Chinese, some division or branch of the Chinese government, and some division or branch of the Russian government are bribing us because they know the moon landing was fake for our technology because we can't sell it to them. I try not to be the guy that well, it's a stupid conspiracy or whatever. Obviously it's very well thought out, but it's just hard for me to connect all those dots with the evidence that he's providing. Maybe I'll have to look at his site, but just seems a bit out there. Now, NASA doing shitty stuff is not beyond me. I can wrap my mind around that. In fact, real quick, here's Amy Eskridge talking about NASA.
And let me tell you, I'm in Huntsville, Alabama. I know I've said that several times. We're the Rocket City. We're the biggest deal you've never heard of. Von Braun was here and we won the space race. We developed the Saturn V here. We built the Saturn V here. We won the space race here in Alabama, whether you've heard of it or not. And I can tell you for a fact, so many prototypes. Only prototype built like this in the world. You turn it on the first time, it works exactly like you thought it would the first time. Great data. You apply for more funding to test it more thoroughly, they cancel it. It goes to NASA divestment. It goes to the auction block. People bid on it, and literally scrap metal vendors win the bid and melt it down for.
Is that not freaking crazy? So you have these just at the top of their field researchers and scientists, engineers, innovators. So good. They develop a prototype that works the first time flawlessly. But for NASA, owning it and then not approving it is better than letting it be out there in the private sector alive. So thanks for the innovation. We'll suck out what we find useful, throw away the rest. Also, we own the patent, so you can't do much with it anyway. That's crazy. That's how brain drain happens and is probably happening. Okay.
Another reason for the truth to come out. Now, I also interviewed Betty Grissom, the widow of the man who was going to be the first man to walk on the moon, who was a whistleblower at NASA to such a degree that he received Secret Service protection the weeks up to his death. I interviewed her for 4 hours. I interviewed her son for 3 hours, who's a 747 pilot. They say with 100% certainty that the man who was going to be the first man to walk on the moon was murdered by the CIA. And if you go to D3, it's a short clip. You can see Scott Grissom say that out of his own mouth. So why is the CIA killing Apollo astronauts who are whistleblowers? What a coincidence, right? Go ahead and play that clip. It's D3.
I think it was intentionally sabotaged by someone. It's been a question in my mind, what was found in the accident investigation and how was that handled? Was the CIA involved or whoever? But it was done intentionally.
So this,
Do you know the story of I'm sure you know the story of the Gus Grissom was Apollo 1, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And according to his son and widow, he was murdered by the CIA. She told me that on January 26, 1967, he telephoned her from NASA and said, "Hon, for some strange reason, the CIA is all over the launch pad today. I've never seen them here before. For some reason, they showed up today."
Did you
and
ever see the
very
CIA?
next day, he's dead by a, quote, accident. One of his last words were, "If we can't talk between two buildings, how are we going to go to the moon?" They couldn't get a wired intercom to work between two buildings. And Neil Armstrong's supposed to pick up the first moon rock. He rehearsed it 6 weeks beforehand, and the stick to pick up the rock falls apart. And the lunar lander crashed weeks beforehand. If they can't get a stick with a bag on the end of it to stay together, if they can't get an intercom to work between two buildings, how are they going to go to the moon? The Soviets launched the first satellite, the first animal, the first man, the first woman, the first spacewalk, the first crew of 3, the first of 2 spacecrafts altogether. They spent 5 time man hours in space, and they never went to the moon. China, the most industrialized nation on Earth, says with 50 years better technology, it's going to take at least 15 years to go to the moon. And yet somehow they did it in 8 years with 1960s technology. Now, if you play clip 4, this is when my film, Astronauts Gone Wild, the link will be in the description of your video, to Sibrel.com. We interviewed Ed Mitchell and showed him the footage, which is one of the proofs that we'll look at. Footage we uncovered that says, do not show to the public at the beginning of the reel, and they're faking being halfway to the moon. They can't leave Earth orbit. And when he was shown that, he turned beet red. He started cursing. He literally kicked me from behind. And in the commotion, we left a wireless microphone on him. And in the commotion, my cameraman forgot to hit stop record. And you can play back that clip. It's about 5 seconds long. They're talking about calling the CIA to have me killed.
Let's see it.
And who killed?
Me.
Want to call the CIA? Have them whacked?
Now, my source, the son of Cyrus Eugene Akers, after he spoke to me, he went out and he had a security system with a password and everything. That was hacked. And his house was broken into, and everything about his dad was taken. And then a couple of days later, this is about 3.5 years ago, the CIA shows up and threatens to kill him and his family if he ever talks to me again. So the dead astronaut's son says the CIA is involved, and he got whistleblower protection up until the day that he died. The CIA is threatening to kill me, right? And why would this source of mine, who was also threatened by the CIA, he received whistleblower protection by the FBI? Now, if they went to the moon, why is he receiving a few years ago whistleblower protection for being the son of the man who confessed that the moon missions were fake? And then if you play clip 5, which is about a minute long, from the documentary Conspiracy Theory, Did We Go to the Moon? There are other deaths. There are a total of 15% of the Apollo astronauts died in accidents within a 2-year period. These are the astronauts who would not cooperate with the fraud. Go ahead, play the clip.
But Grissom wasn't the only Apollo critic to meet with a suspicious and untimely death. Thomas Ronald Barron was a safety inspector during Apollo 1's construction. After the fire, Barron testified before Congress that the Apollo program was in such disarray that the United States would never make it to the moon. Then exactly 1 week after he testified, Barron's car was struck by a train. But the Apollo program continued. And so did the string of untimely deaths. Between 1964 and 1967, a total of 10 astronauts lost their lives in freak accidents. These deaths accounted for an astonishing 15% of NASA's astronaut corps.
To keep something that's alive wrapped up and covered over, you've got to eliminate all the people that can talk about it.
So we have an eyewitness. That's proof, right?
Akers?
That's right.
Well,
and a
I mean,
deathbed,
it's one person's testimony.
I
There's no
understand.
corroborating evidence
So
for
either
it.
he's telling the truth or he's lying.
Sure.
I'll assume any guy who confesses to a murder, is probably telling the truth.
You didn't talk to the guy himself.
Why would you? Okay. Clearly, he is not familiar with police work and investigative work. And fucking crazy people confess to shit they didn't do all the time, dude. I'm sorry, y'all. See, I thought if I came off the video and just let him go, maybe I wouldn't interrupt as much. But I'll tell you, it sounds like a great movie, Bart, but it doesn't sound like real life in any way, shape, or form. It just doesn't. Oh, there's my little alien.
It was allegedly a videotape that you never saw.
That's right. But according to his son, he was there at the time. And you just judge, is that guy of the video we just saw telling the truth or not? I think it's pretty honest, pretty obvious that he's telling the truth. So
people can make their judgment.
That's one reason. Now, another
Wait a minute, telling the truth about what?
About his father's deathbed confession of murdering a coworker to cover up the moon landing fraud at Cannon Air Force Base. So to me, that guy's telling the truth, which means if he is, then his father did participate in the moon landing fraud. He went into great detail about the lunar module and the fake lunar set in an airplane hangar filmed a year beforehand. President Johnson showed up. He kept a list of 15 people. Some in their memoirs say they were at Cannon Air Force Base. Cannon Air Force Base used to have on their website, President Johnson visited us in 1968. They removed it once I started investigating it. And the main reason for many people is that today, with 5 decades, better rockets and technology, the farthest that NASA can send an astronaut into space is 1,000th the distance to the moon. So what they're claiming is, for the first time in the history of the world, technology was greater in the past than in the future. Because during the Apollo program, all the computers combined had 1/1,000,000th the computing power of a cell phone. So that would be like Lindbergh flying across the Atlantic 3,000 miles in 1927, and 56 or 7 years later in 1982, no airplane on Earth can fly over the Atlantic, and the best one can only fly 3,000 miles. It's impossible to have better technology in the past than in the future. How is it? I mean, is there any machine, technological machine you can think of, cell phone,
Supersonic jets,
microwave, anything that worked better in 1969 than its counterpart today?
What about supersonic jets?
What about them? The sound barrier is broken 200 times a day all around the world in military aircraft.
We stopped using them because they were ineffective and they weren't cost effective. They were inefficient and they were way more
Airplanes are
technologically
breaking the sound barrier at a rate of 200 a day.
We're using the same airplanes we've been using since the 50s, and we stopped using the supersonic jets. So that would be one example.
No, they're still using jets that break the sound barrier every day.
Not commercial ones, though.
Well, they decided that people aren't going to pay 20 times more to get there twice as fast.
Exactly.
Right?
That's my point.
Right. Well, that they could use it, but they're just not.
Correct.
Right. So let's listen to this clip.
So let's watch my clip
of an Apollo astronaut saying something very bizarre, that NASA intentionally destroyed all the technology. Now, you still have in the Air Force,
You're good,
you may
Steve.
know more specifically, but the B-52 bomber was designed 70 years ago. It's simple, it's reliable, the same words used about the Saturn V rocket. And there's still 200 of them in service today. So why would they spend a modern equivalent of $250 billion to make this rocket that flies to the moon on the very first attempt and then destroy it? Listen to NASA saying they destroyed the technology.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
So, General, why was that technology destroyed?
I love it. I love that he asks this old retired astronaut as if he's in some kind of court of law, like he just made this crazy point, dropped a mic. So, General, I want the truth. Ay. Why would NASA do that? Okay, let me defer back to the video I literally just played.
And let me tell you, I'm in Huntsville, Alabama. I know I've said that several times. We're the Rocket City. We're the biggest deal you've never heard of. Von Braun was here and we won the space race. We developed the Saturn V here. We built the Saturn V here. We won the space race here in Alabama, whether you've heard of it or not. And I can tell you for a fact, so many prototypes. Only prototype built like this in the world. You turn it on the first time, it works exactly like you thought it would the first time. Great data. You apply for more funding to test it more thoroughly, they cancel it. It goes to NASA divestment. It goes to the auction block. People bid on it. And literally scrap metal vendors win the bid and melt it down for scrap metal and sell it. We could be crazy far. We could be on the moons of Jupiter. We could be exploring Pluto that isn't even a planet anymore if we had spent money differently. I can tell you the names of so many NASA scientists that are depressed and they want to kill themselves because they have built prototype after prototype after prototype in Huntsville, Alabama. First in the world, never before seen, worked the first time you turned it on exactly like you thought. And it was canceled and melted down for scrap metal.
It's not a great conspiracy about not going to the moon. That's not what it's about. There might be some conspiracy aspects to the business side that they conduct, I guess, as far as keeping certain prototypes off the market and out of the hands of certain parties. Sure, yeah, you could probably get them on some technicalities there. But it has nothing to do with faking a moon landing.
What do you?
Why was it destroyed?
Why do you know why, or have any idea why the technology was destroyed by NASA?
I don't know that the technology was destroyed.
Okay,
we
so
built.
NASA
wait a
astronaut
minute.
is lying.
Hold on, Bart.
Okay.
Bart, you gotta let him finish his thought.
Yeah. We flew to the moon. Okay. The program was successful. We did 6 landings on the moon. Okay. We used technology that was designed by Marshall Space Flight Center called a Saturn V rocket. Was the biggest rocket so far ever launched to get us to the moon. Okay. So we went to the moon. Took 3 days to get there. We orbited the moon for a day to get everything correct. Generally, it went that way for all of the 6 landings on the moon. And so we got to the moon. We manned the spacecraft. We had, in our flight, we had a delay because of the command module had a problem with the main engine. And Mission Control had to verify that they could get it fixed or work around it. So anyway, we were late landing on Apollo 16 because of this problem. And we landed in the place we were supposed to land at Descartes Highlands. We spent 72 hours on the moon. We brought back 200 pounds of moon rocks or thereabouts. Maybe not that much. I forgot exactly.
But the question about the technology being destroyed, you're not aware of the technology being destroyed or gone missing from all the Apollo programs.
Okay, so that NASA astronaut is lying that the technology was destroyed.
No, he said he wasn't aware of it.
Okay. Well, according to NASA, a modern day astronaut, he said that a couple of years ago, that all the Apollo technology was destroyed. I interviewed Eugene Krantz. He told me all the telemetry data was destroyed. All the original videotapes were destroyed.
Well,
right before they were to be transferred to HD. So,
but we still have the original film.
No.
Right. Like, this sounds like something I would hear from Uncle Ed at the barbecue before we had smartphones. You know what I'm saying? Like, you knew it was bullshit, but you couldn't like fact check it right on the spot, you know, because you were like at a barbecue. And I think this is why Bart had such a hard time on Rogan, because Jamie's really good at fact checking. And so he would say this nonsense and Jamie would be like, there's nothing like that. There's nothing like that out there. And Bart, oh yeah, well, you know, whatever. And would just kind of shrug it off and move on to the next point. But he just continuously drops non-confirmed just myth, bullshit. I don't know what else to call it. Like it's just bullshit. If you keep repeating the same thing after you've been corrected on it multiple times, dude, that's not true. And then play it off like it's an accident. Like that's, you're a non-truthful person.
Oh, the 16 millimeter film is still in Houston at the Johnson Space Center.
Oh, that I don't know. The videotape is what they intentionally
the videotape of the projection that was given.
Right, you're talking about the camera-mounted lunar module that took one picture.
All of the film that was shot on all the emissions on all of the missions is still in its original format in the film reels in that.
But
Johnson Space
majority
Center.
of the video images is videotape,
Right.
And that was intentionally destroyed.
But those were just copies of the film, right?
No, these are the originals. I talked to Eugene Krantz. He said the original videotapes were accidentally recorded over, and the only machine on Earth that could play it back was intentionally disassembled.
Okay, I'm confused.
So that even if they're found, they couldn't be played.
I'm
All
confused.
the telemetry data where the rocket really was. So back to the destroy.
1 second. Can I ask a question?
Well, either this guy is lying, right? Why would a NASA astronaut lie? Has there ever been a time, and this is another proof, has there ever been a time in the history of the world that someone developed a new technology, broke the sound barrier, split the atom, and then destroyed the technology afterwards? It's never happened. It's never happened. They destroyed it to cover their tracks, because I went scuba diving, and to have an hour's worth of air, it takes 2 tanks this big and that big around. That would be 16 tanks of air you would have to have on your back on the moon. And then to allegedly get the lunar module down to 72 degrees on inside for 3 days against 250 degrees outside on a bank of essentially car batteries. It can't be done. That's why they destroyed all the technology, because it could be proved later that the rocket didn't have enough fuel to leave Earth orbit, which we have proof of as well. I have von Braun's own quote, which we'll read, that says one rocket will never go to the moon without multiple fueling, and we'll show that from von Braun as well.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What does that got to do with our discussion?
Well, he asked, what proof do we have that they didn't go to the moon? And there's a lot of proof that you didn't go to the moon.
How about the proof that we did go to the moon?
Well, we already heard all of that. 400,000 people, that's been refuted. The Russians would have blabbed, that's been refuted. The moon rocks has been refuted. It's one of my clips. That Neil Armstrong, chain of custody,
refuted by my
allegedly
clip.
picked up a rock, personally put it in his pocket, and then later personally gave it to the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, which was immediately sealed in a container in a museum, was opened up a few years ago, and it's petrified wood. It's a fake. The moon rocks are fake. And Antarctica. Von Braun went to Antarctica to pick up pounds and pounds of lunar meteorites.
Yes.
So the rocks are either duplicates of meteorites picked up on Earth, made in a ceramics lab, or just fake.
All right, Bart.
And NASA had no comment. What do you have to say for yourself for a rock that had chain of custody from the moon to Neil Armstrong's hand to this museum ends up being a fake? NASA says no comment.
All right, you're peppering us with fact after fact, and it's just too much. We need to stick to one thing.
They're not
okay.
actual facts.
What's one thing? Let's stick on one topic so we can go back and forth. And we can get Charlie's opinion on it. We can get your opinion on it, and I can evaluate what's going on. Let's talk about the film. Okay. So one of the biggest questions people have about this is why is all the original footage and the telemetry data gone from the Apollo missions? But I want to clarify something first. All of the footage that we have from the moon, was that shot on film specifically? On film cameras, like 16 millimeter film?
We had a 16 millimeter camera. We had Hasselblads, which took photographs, and we had TV that sent back television from the lunar rover to Earth.
Like a specific type of camera for television?
Yeah, it was a television camera that we mounted on the front of the rover.
Okay, but then those don't use film. I'm not a camera expert. They don't use film?
No, it was a TV picture.
Okay, so just broadcast straight, doesn't record anything on it. It's just live broadcast.
It was recorded down here in Mission Control.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay, I understand.
But we didn't have a recorder on. Well, we had. I'm not sure, but I don't think we had a recorder on board.
Okay, so the TV cameras were recorded down at Mission Control, and those would have been recorded on tapes, I'm guessing.
Right.
And those would be the tapes that have been erased.
Correct.
Okay, so that was the incompetence of NASA, allegedly.
Well, or intentional. Just like they intentionally destroyed the technology, they intentionally erased the tapes.
So they
knew what they were.
Their
tapes, excuse was to make room for other projects.
So, Steve, if you ask ChatGPT, let's ask ChatGPT, what happened to the original tapes from the NASA missions? And let's see what the answer it gives is.
Well, that would be this right here.
Oh, you already have it.
Yeah.
All right.
It's so
the original tapes were later erased and reused. NASA routinely used magnetic tapes in the 60s and through the 80s due to storage, cost, and shortages. So that's crazy that the tapes from the lunar missions were recorded over.
They're saying that the
and they were recorded over right
locally
before.
recorded stuff was this slow scan stuff
Film, right?
Yeah. No, I think it was tape. It's actual tape, like
okay.
you know, like tape recorders.
Okay.
They use that technology instead of film.
Yeah, it was
and then
1-inch videotape.
that stuff was recorded
Reel to reel.
over, but the stuff that they sent through broadcast survived.
Well,
So that's what it is.
Ron Howard, whose grandfather warned him that the moon missions were fake, didn't listen, wanted to make an IMAX movie, and he requested all the original videotapes to be broadcast, projected on an IMAX screen about 100 feet by 120 feet.
Right.
Bigger than they've ever been done before. He wanted to use the originals. And it was between that request and a couple of days later that everything got erased. He had to go to Blockbuster and rent VHS tapes and reduce them to this tiny portion of the screen. Otherwise, the image quality would be so bad. You can see the VHS tracking line.
Is that a
90%
fact?
of that movie is reenactments.
Is that a fact that what year was this when Ron Howard requested the tapes from
I think
NASA?
it was around 1999, something like that.
So around, Steve, hopefully you can look this up. Ron Howard was working on an IMAX film in around 1999, requested the original tapes from NASA. And you're saying it is an absolute fact that we can look up that NASA erased those tapes.
You just did. Yeah.
Right after Ron Howard requested them?
Well, that was my research at the time. I did my film at Sibrel.com took 7 years to produce. I was given $1 million by someone who builds rockets for NASA, who knows the moon missions are fake, who thought it was his patriotic duty to expose it. Now, not only is it the first time in history that technology is greater in the past and in the future. Not only is it the only time in history that all of the documentation, all the technology, according to NASA Astronaut, was intentionally destroyed, it's also the first time in history that nobody could repeat the event 50 years later. Imagine them splitting the atom in 1945, the first atomic bomb, and 50 years later, no one can split the atom, when in fact, just 10 years later, atomic bombs were 1,000 times more powerful. So if they could go to the moon on the first attempt ahead of schedule with 1/1,000,000th the computing power of a cell phone, we would have been on Mars 10 years later. We'd be in another solar system by now, and there'd be bases all over the moon, taking people back and forth to play basketball on 1-0 or 1/6 gravity. The best NASA can do today is send mannequins to orbit the moon, when somehow we could play golf and drive cars on the moon with 1960s technology on the first attempt. There have been 6 presidents who have said a total of 9 times they're going to return to the moon in 5 years. You had Ronald Reagan said it, then Clinton said it, then Bush Sr. said it, then Bush Jr. said it twice, and Obama said it twice, and Trump said it one time, and they can't do it. With 50 years better technology, they can't return to the moon in 50 years. But
Why is that,
somehow
Charlie?
they could do it with 1960s technology on the first attempt.
Why don't you think we've been able to go
China's
back
there
to the
now?
moon since 72?
Because they spent their money on other programs.
Right.
Well,
It's expensive.
the government spends every month 70% more money than they
Bart,
take
look,
in.
I'm not going to argue with you about this. We went to the moon. 6 times we landed on the moon.
You lied to the American public 6 times, which
That's
shows the
not
arrogance
true.
of the American. Well, then
You
I
don't
guess
believe
this guy is lying.
believe we landed on the moon.
You didn't know that before you got here.
No.
Yeah, no,
Come on.
his life's
So
work.
how did we get 600 pounds of moon rocks?
Well, like I
Let's
said,
talk about the moon rock. Okay, let's put a pin there. Now let's talk about the moon rocks. Okay, what evidence do you have? I know you have some that proves that the moon rocks were not actually moon rocks, right?
Yeah, if you could find, let me find the clip here.
Bart's
or you could
position
look
is,
it up.
Bart's position is the moon rocks aren't
Netherlands
real.
fake moon rock. Let's go to clip D7 real quick. This is a recent article about the French government, and they committed a crime in 1945 that they're still lying about today. And what happened was their soldiers returned from World War II and wanting their back pay. And they refused to give it to them because they were black. And when they kept protesting, they machine gunned 300 of them in a single base and buried them. That just came out. That happened in 1945. And play the clip, and let's read this news article. It says one of the things that they did was they fabricated.
What does that have to do with moon rocks?
Because it shows governments, it says they fabricated and destroyed evidence. So we're going to look at the fabrication. I'm just trying to find the clip here. It's out of sequence.
All right, that has absolutely
about the
nothing to do
moon
with
rocks.
Bart.
Or you could look it up. Look up fake moon rock in Amsterdam.
Yeah, So are the moon rocks something that is available for the public to see?
D29.
Yeah. I mean, the moon rocks are on display all over the world. And also they're still doing experiments on the moon rock. NASA's, the Lunar Planetary Institute, or whoever it is controlling those and sending those out. People submit experiment requests still today about to do experiments on the moon rocks. So there's still moon rocks available.
Do they let outside researchers do analysis on them? And
Universities, yeah.
Universities do?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they let universities have some. Like, I'm not involved in that at all.
Right, sure.
And I've been with NASA for a long time, but the moon rocks are unique, and they're radioactive, whatever, and not radioactive evidence, but they're the way they have been collected. They were collected on every mission. They were isolated when they got back and put in the lunar receiving lab. And now they're still being given out samples. People are still requesting samples of moon rocks. And NASA evaluates these experiments that they request. And apparently they're still giving some of it out. I have been with NASA in a long, long time, so I don't know how it works today.
So Bart, how do you explain us having actual moon rocks here on Earth?
Well, like I said, von Braun went to Antarctica. There's a picture of him in Antarctica where he collected hundreds of pounds of lunar meteorites, which they use for fake moon rocks. NASA also has the most advanced ceramics lab in the world where they could take a rock and falsify micrometeorites in it. And then go to clip 29. This is about moon rocks.
What?
It says they opened one up and it proved to be fake. Do you realize a few years ago, a 70-year-old woman was arrested by the FBI and thrown in a cell, not allowed to go to the bathroom. She had to pee on herself because she had a paperweight with one speck of an alleged moon rock in the very center of it, and she couldn't pay her electric bill or mortgage. And it was given to her by her husband, who got it from someone at NASA. And the FBI surrounded her to get that so that it couldn't be opened and examined independently. And this is just a tiny speck of a moon rock.
Who is this? What was this woman's name?
I don't know, but you could look it up. 70-year-old woman arrested for having a moon rock or trying to sell a moon rock.
See if we find it.
And play clip 29. You said, what's the proof of the fake moon rocks?
Yes.
You have D29 there, Steve?
Let's see it.
Look at D29. It's a still of the article. And
okay, from the
moon
Telegraph.
Rock, given to Holland by Neil Armstrong, is a fake. This is one that had complete chain of custody from the surface of the moon to Neil Armstrong's hand, to his pocket, to the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, hermetically sealed, opened a few years ago after someone watched my film out of curiosity, and it ends up being this out-of-world looking piece of petrified wood. Now, unless trees are growing on the moon rock is fake. And yet no reporter has the courage to ask, if the moon rocks are fake, what about the moon missions? I had a reporter from the Washington Post that broke the Watergate story I showed him the footage, which we're going to show of them faking being halfway to the moon. That says don't show to the public at the beginning.
All right,
of
you're
it.
all over the place.
Yeah, but
we'll get to that.
the point is he agreed that it proved they never left Earth orbit, but he was forbidden to publish it.
Okay. We got to stick to one topic. Let's go back to the moon rocks. This piece of petrified wood that you were showing that was given to the Prime Minister of Holland, right? Or I thought it was a Dutch Prime Minister.
The same thing.
Off of the crack rocks.
I thought it was like the Netherlands,
Back to the moon
right?
rocks.
Correct. Okay. I've heard this story before. I first heard it from you. I also heard a pushback on this, that it was not Buzz Aldrin or Neil Armstrong who gave it to the Prime Minister of the Netherlands. However, it was the U.S. ambassador to the Netherlands that gave him this thing.
Well, from my understanding, it went.
So
from,
it was not directly from him.
Neil Armstrong is the one who said he picked it up, and it was on a visit of him.
Said it to who?
He visited the Netherlands and gave it to the Prime Minister.
Okay, we should find this.
He claimed he picked it up and put it in his pocket.
Let's find
the point
this.
is,
Who gave the Prime Minister of the Netherlands the fake moon rock? Who actually gave it to him?
So for 40 years, everyone thought it was a moon rock. It was billed as a moon rock, picked up off the lunar surface by Apollo 11. They did a little tour around the world afterwards. He gave moon rocks to various people. He gave one to the Prime Minister of the Netherlands. It was sealed. It was opened up a few years ago.
Okay,
it was
right
proven
here
to be a piece of
Bart, right here.
petrified wood.
It says Prime Minister. Okay, the rock was not given to the Dutch Prime Minister by astronauts, but was instead given to the former Prime Minister William Dries by the then U.S. Ambassador William Middendorf in 1969 during a goodwill tour by the Apollo 11 astronauts.
Okay, so the
rock
Apollo
was
11
later found to be
astronauts were
fake
there.
and actually was a piece of petrified wood.
Okay, so Neil Armstrong was there at the visit. That's when the rock was given. He claimed he picked it up. The Prime Minister of the Netherlands didn't pick it up. Neil Armstrong picked it up. There he is. Apollo 11 astronauts during
How
the
do we know?
Goodwill
We
tour.
don't know that. Okay, it says it was during the tour. The
Okay,
Goodwill
so
tour.
either Neil Armstrong or Buzz Aldrin
what is
claimed
your
to
point?
pick it up.
So
What
it
is
seems
your
because
it seems
you can't figure it out.
Hold on,
you
Bart,
claim the moon
you gotta
rocks
put the
were
headphones
proof.
on, or you can't just keep talking over everybody, bro. It's like it's too much.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's too much. His point is that this piece of moon rock that was given to the Prime Minister of the Netherlands during the Apollo 11 Goodwill tour with Neil and Buzz.
Oh my, it's too much, bro. It's too much. It is too much. I think when I started this, I think the word I used was filibuster. And that's definitely what this gentleman does when you want to bring up any point that's in any way, shape, or form not what he's saying. It's either shit on it or filibuster. And then if you're lucky enough to get a fact in between when he's taking a breath, and that fact disproves something he's already got his mind made up on, he just shrugs it off and continues. Fucking exhausting. So we're going to take a break for a minute. And we're going to talk about the $175 billion Golden Dome. So there's been a lot of talk about this program. The Wall Street Journal did a bit of a deep dive about half a year ago, 6 months ago, it looks like. Now, Wall Street Journal, like any other media outlet, you can trust them to be the Wall Street Journal. So if anything sounds off in this, please make sure and do your own research. But this is supposed to be a objective look at the Golden Dome program. And if you're curious about the Golden Dome, it's kind of supposed to be the future of our defense, particularly against ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles. Now, I watched a movie this last Thanksgiving break called, oh goodness, what was it called? Something about an oven. let me find it for you. It was on Netflix. House of Dynamite. I apologize, y'all. House of Dynamite on Netflix, which is about a ICBM, we believe, nuclear-tipped missile that's fired off from the Pacific. It doesn't specify which country, and don't worry, I won't spoil it for you, towards the city of Chicago. And we literally have minutes to respond. And the current system that we have, the intercept system, has like a 60% success rate. So it's almost the flip of a coin whether or not our current system could intercept an ICBM. And that's just one, let alone, the possibility of many. So here's the Wall Street Journal report on the Golden Dome, which is supposed to be just leagues better than what we currently have. Well, we know that he definitely has the support. I really haven't heard a lot of pushback against the program. I mean, not even with the sticker shock. People, when it comes to defending the country, there's really not a cost that's too high. All right, so right now we have live. There's supposed to be some testimony going on about kidnapping of Ukrainian children by Russians. So give me just a moment here. This is going to be some live coverage. Just a moment. We'll get it switched over. So this is interesting. As I said, this is breaking, and but I think it's important we check it out. So we're gonna hop on over and check this out live.
And come back and hear the second panel and get as much information as we can. Is that okay with you, Senator Johnson? Yeah. Okay. So the purpose of this hearing today is to shed a light on one of the problems associated with the Ukraine-Russia conflict. We have disputes about land. We have disputes about the size of the Ukrainian military, how big it should be, what capability it should have. Do we have NATO-type troops on the ground, making sure there's no third invasion? Should they be in NATO? If not, should they forever be barred? So these are areas of dispute. One area of dispute looms large for all of us on this committee, Republican and Democrat. Here's the dispute. Our Ukrainian allies claim 19,546 reports of unlawful deportation and forced transfer of children in the occupied areas of Ukraine by Russia. Let me say this again. People in Ukraine and organizations are claiming that Putin's Russia has separated over 19,000 Ukrainian children from their families, trying to turn them into Russians. How can you end this war unless every child is accounted for? The purpose of the hearing today is to make a record as to whether or not this claim is legitimate. I invited the Russian ambassador. There's his table. It's small, but that's the best we can do. He didn't show up. So this dispute needs to be defined and it needs to be resolved. Again, you cannot honorably end this conflict unless you account for every child taken by Putin's Russia from Ukraine, period. In terms of how this conflict ends, I think it's very important that Congress review what has been agreed to, that we have a say about is this a good deal or a bad deal, that if there are security guarantees, which there must be, that we'll review those guarantees and see if we can find bipartisan support to make them continuing past the Trump administration. Those are two things very important to me. Every child must be accounted for, and Congress needs to have a look at this deal if we can ever reach one. To the Trump administration, thank you for trying to end this bloodbath. All of us know we'll never get a perfect deal. There'll be sacrifices made. But one of the sacrifices we're not going to make is to give Russia 19,000 Ukrainian children. That's not a sacrifice I'm willing to make. I doubt if anybody up here is willing to make that sacrifice. This is not about land. This is about families. It's about the very fabric of society. How would you feel if it were one of your children? What would you want the world to do? I'd want the world to get my kid back. Is that asking too much? I don't think so. As to our Russian friends, they have 210 facilities people have identified, 39 sites where children go for direct military training, 130 sites that deal with their re-education, making them Russian. I'm not making this up. This is 2025, not 1945. This is going on in 2025, and it needs to stop. Russia pretty well denies everything. They refuse to work with the UN. They block monitoring. They have done nothing meaningful to resolve this issue. They're stonewalling us all. They're saying it doesn't exist. And this was a chance for Russia to tell its side of the story. They decided not to come. So this hearing is one of the most important things that any of us will do in our time in the Senate and in the House. Deliver justice to people who've had their children kidnapped by a foreign power. We have legislation, Senator Blumenthal and myself, that would make Russia a state sponsor of terrorism under U.S. law if we don't repatriate these children. One of the definitions making a country a state sponsor of terrorism, a section says kidnapping. And this is kidnapping. So we're trying to come together, all of us, to make Russia a terrorist state because they're acting like terrorists. And I hope we can move forward on that soon, and I hope we can find a way to end this bloodbath, but we got to do it right. So we're trying to provide as much visibility as we can to our European friends. Do what we're doing. Have a hearing. Get your parliaments together. Create your version of a state sponsor of terrorism. Let's work together hand in hand. Let's try to find a way to put maximum pressure on Putin's Russia to account for each and every child. Every parliament in Europe should be doing what we're doing. Everybody should be having hearings. And so we don't have a minute to delay. Senator Schott's been great to work with. This whole committee has been great to work with. We'll do his opening statement. We'll introduce our first panel, and thank you all.
Thank you very much, Chairman Graham, for convening this hearing and for your leadership on this critical issue. The systematic abduction of Ukrainian children by the Russian government is a horrific tragedy for the thousands of families victimized by Putin, but it's also an issue of global concern. Here in the Senate, colleagues on both sides of the aisle have been working to support efforts to track and return children and hold perpetrators accountable. That vital work continues, and I hope today's discussion adds to those efforts. But let me reiterate something that the chairman said. Any peace plan that lets Putin walk away from this war, having illegally seized Ukrainian territory, kidnapped thousands of Ukrainian children, and caused the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people on both sides with no consequences, is unacceptable. It would set a very dangerous precedent for the world, not to mention undermine future peace in the region. It is disappointing that the State Department declined to participate in today's hearing, but I hope that the administration will be briefing us about these talks very soon. As I noted, there has been a bipartisan effort to address Russia's mass abduction of Ukrainian children, and yet earlier this year, the Trump administration abruptly ended a contract which jeopardized the work to get critical data, including on abducted children, to the Ukrainian government and European law enforcement. It is one of the many instances where the administration has eliminated, undermined, or disregarded bipartisan priorities that are under the purview of this subcommittee, and why it's so important that we negotiate and enact a bipartisan state and foreign ops bill for the next fiscal year. The bill is critical for protecting American interests through targeted security and economic assistance for key allies and partners like Ukraine. And to do that well, the bill needs to restore transparency, strengthen the State Department's workforce, meet our international commitments, and ensure compliance with the law. We shouldn't have to wonder whether funds are being spent as we intended, or hear secondhand that critical efforts that we all supported are gone. For today, I'm interested in hearing from our witnesses about what's required to return, reintegrate, and rehabilitate Ukrainian children and how we can best help. I'm also interested in how we can support law enforcement efforts, including national prosecutors and courts, as well as the ICC, which has indicted Putin for war crimes associated with the abduction of these children. I want to thank our witnesses today for their testimony, and I look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Chairman Collins, would you, thank you for coming. Would you?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to commend you and the ranking member for shining a spotlight on a truly horrendous problem. And I am happy to work with you in any way to send the strongest possible signal to President Putin, to Russia, that this is simply so wrong. It is a war crime. It is something that simply cannot be allowed to continue. So thank you very much for your leadership and that of our witnesses today.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Our first panel are our colleagues, two from the House, two from the Senate. Republicans and Democrats who have been deeply involved in this issue and every other issue related to Putin's war on Ukraine. And I thought it would be good to hear from you because you've been leading on so many ways. And Senator Blumenthal, we've had a great relationship over this issue, and it's now time to get some bills passed. Senator Blumenthal.
Thank you very much, Chairman Graham. I've been to Ukraine 8 times since the beginning of this war. Most of those trips with you, Mr. Chairman, some long overnight train rides, and first and foremost, thank you for your leadership, which has been truly historic, without any exaggeration, on this issue. I also want to thank my colleague, Senator Klobuchar, for her leadership, which has been really instrumental, and our House colleagues who are here. Thank you. And to the witnesses who will literally testify as to the inhumanity and the criminality that we see unfolding in the kidnapping of these children. It's more than a war crime. It is literally genocide. It is genocide because the ultimate goal of abducting these children is to erase the Ukrainian identity. It is part of a strategic effort to erase the nation of Ukraine from existence. And Putin tried it by conquering territory. He continues that effort. And the attempted negotiations now ongoing in Moscow, we wish them well, but there's no sign of clear progress, and therefore we need to move forward with our sanctions bill, with the designation of Russia as a state sponsor of terrorism, as well as an effort to use the seized assets. I witnessed firsthand the courage of the Ukrainian people and the brutal toll of Putin's assault, the bombing and missiles that are designed, again, to erase Ukraine and damage the people of Ukraine directly without any regard to the rules of war. And I have spoken to those, some of them, Ukrainian children who have been taken hostage. Of all the moments in my life of this privilege of public service, which we all have, this one will stay with me forever, talking to children about how they were declared orphans because the Russians killed their parents, or simply abducted by Russian soldiers. I cannot describe to you the absolute brutality and inhumanity with which they were treated. 10-month-old Margarit Popenko, who was kidnapped by Russians under the false pretense of medical examination and rehabilitation. Her name and citizenship were changed, and her birthplace was altered from Kherson, Ukraine, to Podolsk, Russia. In another case, 16-year-old Artem, forcibly taken by Russian soldiers to an orphanage where he said he slept, quote, on sagging metal beds, no bedding, just blankets, terrible sanitation. Every day we ate barley stew, strange compote, and crackers, end quote. 9-year-old Ilya lived with his mother in Mariupol when the war began. Quote, I loved my school and my friends, he said. We had a beautiful home. His mother was killed in a Russian missile strike. He buried her in their backyard. He was transferred to a hospital in Donetsk where he underwent surgery without anesthesia and was told by Russian doctors that he shouldn't say glory to Ukraine anymore. Those are just a few of the stories. Having talked to some of these children, I think the people of the United States should know about these atrocities, war crimes, genocide, as part of a systematic, deliberate effort to indoctrinate the children of Ukraine with pro-Russian ideologies and to delegitimize and deny their national identity. I was proud to join you, Mr. Chairman, along with Senator Britt and Senator Klobuchar in introducing this legislation earlier this year that would designate Russia as a state sponsor of terrorism, part of a very exclusive club, well earned by Russia and Vladimir Putin. And I want to thank all the members of the United States Senate. I hope all the members. I challenge my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to vote for this measure. And if you are in possession of an ounce of humanity, you will support this measure enthusiastically. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Klobuchar. You made me aware of this issue. I appreciate it. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Senator Schatz for leading this powerful subcommittee of people that have been leaders on this issue. You couldn't think of a better time for this hearing as these negotiations are ongoing, and we must stand with Ukraine, and I appreciated both of your words. So I recently returned from Rome, where 12 days ago I had the honor of joining the Ukrainian delegation sent by President Zelensky to meet with Pope Leo at the Vatican. I was there alongside Maxime, who will testify today. And it's one thing to have the numbers that we all use about the number of kids that are over there, some of them as old as teenagers, some of them as young as 1 year old, 2 years old, 3 years old. It's another to actually sit across the table from them and their families. I met Sashko, who was taken from his home in Mariupol after being wounded in a Russian bombardment. At our breakfast, he was there with his brave grandma, Ludmila, who told me she eventually took matters into her own hands, this grandma, when he was able to get a cell phone and call her, and she went into the occupied territory to rescue him. With the Pope, I stood next to Veronica, who was confined in Russia against her will for both her 13th and her 14th birthdays, including periods of time in isolation before she managed to escape. These are tragic stories of childhoods forever changed by brutality. But they are also stories of resilience and hope, the stories of the Ukrainian people who, against all odds, have continued to stand up to the brutality of Vladimir Putin. Veronica is attending school again in Kyiv, now in the 11th grade. And to see her big smile when she met the Pope and the tears coming out of her eyes as he gave her a rosary is something I will never forget. More than 1,800 children have been returned, some with the help of the Vatican, and we were there to urge the Pope to use his standing and strong moral authority in the world to help return more children through mediation. I believe the Pope plays a critical role, but in the end, children should never be pawns in a war. And that is why Senator Britt and I joined you, Mr. Chairman, and Senator Blumenthal on this important bill. But we must know, as you will hear today, how the kids are being moved in Russia through 200 sites, thanks to the incredible detective work of Yale researchers led by Nathaniel Raymond, who will testify today. His team has tracked the movements with biometrics and the like of some kids that don't even look like they looked when they were abducted because they were only babies. In addition to this important legislation that you're talking about today that I hope advances to the Senate, Senator Shaheen and I were just discussing this. Senator Grassley and I have a bill that we thank all of you for supporting in the NDAA. That bill would authorize our federal agencies to continue supporting these tracking efforts. I want to thank Representative Fitzpatrick for co-leading the bipartisan companion legislation in the House and Representative McCall for leading a related resolution. The U.S. is not alone in assisting Ukraine with the tracking and recovery of our children. Our allies are stepping up, and in September, President Zelensky announced a new initiative among several countries to share data and build up the capacity of Ukraine's own law enforcement. We all must do our part, and I'm pleased that First Lady Melania Trump joined us in this effort. But in the end, if we just sell out on some kind of an agreement that not only doesn't bring the kids home, but literally gives Russia territory that they don't even have right now, that's the message we're going to send to the world. So, Chairman Graham, I want to thank you for at this really important time having this hearing, and let's get these kids home. Thank you.
To show how important this is, we allowed members of the House to come to the Senate. Michael? You're up.
Well, Chairman, it's great to be in the House of Lords, the upper chamber. It took a while to walk over here. But I do want to thank you and the ranking member, Schatz, for holding this important hearing and having us from the House who care about this issue deeply. And we've been following this for quite some time. And you're putting a spotlight on this. And I can't say thank you enough. And I agree with you. In these peace talks that are going on right now, Russia needs to understand these children must come home. They must be repatriated with their families. We need an ironclad security agreement, unlike the '94 Budapest Agreement that didn't have that. And as I passed the wartime supplemental in the House, passed by the Senate, Russia needs to pay for its own crimes in the REPO Act. I met with the Ukraine ambassador yesterday, showed me a video that Save Ukraine put together featuring these children and describing the Russian atrocities. The Russian Federation has abducted at least 20,000 children that we know of, and every expert I've talked to believes the number's higher, much higher than that. They are also indoctrinating and militarizing Ukrainian children in the occupied territories, possibly up to 1 million. According to the video, Russia has allocated $7 billion in its 26-28 budget for a national project titled Youth and Children, essentially militarized youth organizations. The ambassador told me again that 1 million children live in the occupied territories, vulnerable to brainwashing and abuse, and more than 43,000 have already enrolled in Russia's paramilitary youth program. And I think really most frightening to me is in these territories, the textbooks spew false information and conspiracy theories about NATO and the free world. All this is part of Russia's effort to turn future generations against Ukraine, the United States, and Europe, because in their words, they are preparing for a large-scale war against NATO. It will not end at Donbass and the land bridge to Crimea. We have to be clear-eyed in these negotiations. Some of these children's parents are have been threatened in giving up their kids. They're shipped to Russia, stripped of their identities, tortured, forced to memorize propaganda, and told their country and their own families are the enemy. Finally, many of them are sent to the front lines of the Russian war itself. Imagine a child age 16 being sent to the front lines to fight against their own homeland. And Mr. Chairman, in the documentary Children in the Fire, I'd recommend everybody watch this. They show a child in a prison where adults use electrodes to shock them under their fingernails and genitals. And I hate to even say that in public, but it is so horrific. No child should ever have to endure that kind of barbarism. And to me, it's good versus evil, and this is evil in its purest form. And like the chairman, I've met with a lot of these survivors. I've met with many of them who were sent to Russian camps, and they described the forced indoctrination and the torture. As a father of 5, as you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, I can't imagine any of my children being kidnapped and indoctrinated against the United States of America. And imagine how Americans will feel if that happened to them. I'm thankful, Chairman Graham, for your leadership, calling attention to this important issue. And I agree that any peace must include the repatriation of these children, and it must include the ironclad security agreement. We cannot repeat the mistakes of the past. Unfortunately, the reporting I'm seeing out of Moscow shows Ukraine making concessions while Putin has made none. That is no surprise. I think he will drag this out. He will continue his behavior, including the kidnapping and abuse of the children, until pressure is placed on him and he's forced to be stopped. We must hold those responsible accountable and ensure this ends not only for Ukraine's sake, but for our own sake and for the world. Russia's attempt to re-engineer an entire generation is a battle plan. In their words, they are preparing children for war against NATO. This is a national security imperative, and beyond that, it's a moral imperative. And this is a time, all of us on both sides of the aisle, for moral clarity, because history will judge us by what we do here and now. And it will judge us how we respond today. So again, Mr. Chairman, thank you for holding this important hearing. I look forward to working with you in this committee.
Thank you. Congressman Fitzpatrick.
Thank the chair and the ranking member, and to all of our Senate colleagues for allowing Mike and I to come here today. No matter what path any of us have taken here, whether we're here in an elected capacity, the media, advocates, supporters, I think we can all agree on one thing, and that is none of us have any higher responsibility in any aspect of our lives than to take care of our kids. That is our single most important responsibility that we have as human beings. And as we sit here today, there are close to 20,000 Ukrainian children who are living in fear, living in uncertainty, that are relying on us, people who have a position of authority, to not forget them, and not just to not forget them, but to make sure we do everything in our power, everything in our capacity to bring them home to their families. And there's nothing accidental about Russia's abduction of these Ukrainian children. This is not a byproduct of war. It's a calculated decision by Vladimir Putin. It is state-directed, and it is one of the clearest perpetuations of terror that this war has seen. Since February of 2022, Ukrainian authorities, as was pointed out by Senator Graham, documented at a bare minimum 19,546 children. Every single one of those children have a name. Every single one of those children have dreams. They all have families that they love. And as we sit here today, they are living in fear. And they've been forcibly taken from their families, transported to Russian custody or Russian-occupied territories. These abductions are not random. They're not isolated. They are part of a deliberate effort that is specifically designed to do what Vladimir Putin has said he was going to do for years, to destroy Ukraine by erasing their culture and erasing their next generation of young Ukrainians. Silence in the face of such deliberate evil can never be an option for any of us. We have a responsibility and, more importantly, a moral obligation as human beings to make sure we take action here. And that begins with sending the following message to the Russian Federation. If you continue to kidnap Ukraine's children, and if you refuse to return every single last one of them home, you will bear the full weight of being recognized for what you have become, which is a state sponsor of terror. The bipartisan bill put forth by Senator Graham and several of his
So this is, you know, super fucked up. Over 20,000 kids missing from Ukraine. Ukraine is pointing the finger at Russia, saying that this was an intentional move to try to abduct their children. I don't know if the plan was, you know, use them as some kind of bargaining chip or something even worse. God help them. But this is bad news. You know, war is awful, right? It's just the worst thing to ever come from humankind. I mean, it really is. And then you think about there's already so much collateral damage. Innocent women, children, men, you know, that weren't involved lose their lives. And it's just a bad situation all the way around. And, you know, 19,000 Ukrainian children missing. Let's not forget, as I covered, you know, this last year, when the president we had apparently didn't care about border security at the time, was just letting anybody come over. We had over 85,000 missing children. 85,000 children that were assigned to sponsors that were essentially either using them as slave labor or, even worse, child sex trafficking. This is bad shit. You know, children are the best of us. They really are. And this whole thing is just crazy. Of all the things that are going on over there, to hear about this is just really, really shocking and sad. So hopefully we can do something about this.
The heart of every parent across our nation. Everyone. I mean, think about your child being ripped from your arms. Think about not knowing where your kids are on their birthday or milestones or tragic experiences. You've just heard Senator Blumenthal, Senator Klobuchar, others talk about torture, talk about having to undergo surgery with no anesthesia, talk about having to denounce everything they know and love, terrified, miles and miles away from their own parents. Look, I think allowing this to occur as a nation, it goes against the very fabric of who we are as a country. Think about that. And look, I join you in asking our European allies to step up and to do the very same thing that we're doing today. But we are here today because America must do something. And you cannot be a great nation if you are unwilling to do good. And there is no doubt that these kids need us. They need us to raise our voice. I want to thank the First Lady for her tireless effort on this. Senator Graham, I want to thank you, Senator Blumenthal, Senator Klobuchar. Stand with you in bringing every one of these kids home and appreciate this. And I think we have a moral obligation to keep this going until we get every last one of them back into their parents' arms.
Well, thank you. Well said by all. We got 2 votes. We'll come back we'll try to vote at the beginning of the second vote, and our second panel, we'll hear from y'all just as soon as we get through voting. Thank you. We're in recess to then.
Okay, so some pretty incredible claims there. They started off with 19,000, and we just heard the gentleman testify 20,000 or more. So not a good situation. We will, if we're still on, we will certainly hop back and cover the second part of that hearing. Actually, let's see here. It looks like
Trying to do today, I'd like to do opening statements with myself and Senator Schatz.
looks like we will
And if
actually be proceeding now.
Senator Collins and Murray come, certainly have them say anything they'd like. Go to the first panel. We have 2 votes at 2:15. Go vote and come back and hear the second panel and get as much information as we can. Is that okay with you, Senator Schatz? Yeah. Okay. So the purpose of this hearing today is to shed a light on one of the problems associated with the Ukraine-Russia conflict. We have disputes about land.
It just
we have
immediately
disputes
went into
about the
replay.
size of the Ukrainian.
So yes, folks, if they bring back that second, if they come back for the second part of that hearing, we will hop back over there for sure. We're going to get back to the interview with Danny Jones, and it's interesting. It appears I've bothered a couple of people. So let's see. Chicken strips, DQ chicken strips. You know what? Look, we might not agree on this, but the DQ chicken strips with the gravy, forget about it. Forget about it. So good. So good. And really innovative thinking, because there's not like a single fast food place that offers that like gravy dipping option for your chicken strips. So well done, DQ, on the chicken strips. Absolutely. Says they didn't land on the moon. Well, look, I get the argument. I totally do. I understand the radiation at the Van Ryan belt and the equipment and this and that and the other. However, there just hasn't been enough overwhelming evidence for me to believe we didn't land on the moon. So I love chicken strips. I love DQ chicken strips. I hope that doesn't ruin our relationship. But I do think we landed on the moon. Unless something new comes along and changes my mind. Now, Jonah wasn't as nice. Jonah says mocking Sibrel and laughing it off is all I have. It's all I have. And my closed-mindedness is shining through. Yeah, I did respond. I tried to say, look, I try to be open-minded, but sometimes I hear something and I just can't help but laugh. And when I hear somebody use a piece of content that they created based on their own assumptions and then try to use that as a fact, that makes me laugh. I'm sorry. It's funny. I mean, it really is. And it just kind of points to he has a reason. He needs it to be fake because at this point, that's who he is. He's Bart Sibrel. Bart Sibrel, we didn't land on the moon guy. And he calls anybody that argues with him an ignorant idiot. And that's just not a way to win hearts and minds there. Let's see what else we got. We got, didn't they have the photos of Earth from the moon? They did. But the dedicated will tell you that those are all fake. Right? It's all fake. Everything's fake. Alien autopsy real. Photos of the Earth from the moon fake. Do the math on that one for me. I don't know. Anywho, look, we're all on the same rock together. We're all trying to figure it out together, right? So I like to have fun while I'm doing it. You would think that's enough. You would think that's enough, but it's not. And I think, Seth, I think it's going to be the same if they ever do like an alien disclosure thing. Like if Trump comes out and he's like, look, it's true. And he kind of like leans on the UFO, and like kind of pushes it, shows how it hovers. And then some pilot jumps in, takes it for a flight. Then they walk back and they talk to an alien being, all in 4K high def live streamed. I still don't think people would believe it. I still think there would be like a percentage of people, probably a pretty large one, to be like, nope, nope, Project Bluebeam, I know it. It's an interesting time. It's an interesting time.
Was later analyzed and found to be petrified wood and not a moon rock.
No,
that's his evidence.
They do not have photos
the
of
moon
it.
rocks aren't
I
real.
don't believe, not that I know of. Now, I do want to say, a few nights ago, David Grush did say to Brett Baer, the U.S. government does have photos of non-human beings, and he's seen them. So take that for what it is, but thought that was pretty interesting.
Well, I brought back a couple 100 pounds, maybe, moon rocks. I don't remember exactly.
Couple
And
100 pounds
they're
of fake
very
moon rocks?
unique. They got a radiation history that is unique.
They look anything like that?
No.
No.
They look like charcoal, and they don't look like that.
Okay.
They look like more gray charcoal.
What was the biggest moon rock that you brought back?
I think 25 pounds.
Whoa. Like roughly how big though?
I had to roll it up my leg. It was first EVA at Plum Crater. And
is that a moon rock, right? Is that a real moon rock?
We didn't collect anything like that. The one on the right.
No.
No.
What? Zoom out, Steve, and see if we can find something that Charlie would think that looks like one of the moon rocks that he grabbed. Does any of this look like one of the rocks that you had?
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
What if we Googled Charlie Duke moon rock?
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Maybe Apollo 16 moon rock.
Oh yeah, or Apollo 16 moon rock. Yeah.
A Big Muley I picked up. Go left. Is that Big Muley? The one on the left.
Good Lord, that's
huge. That one. The big Muley. No, the other one to the left.
That one.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's a real moon rock.
I picked it up. Yeah.
Wow.
That was a 25 pounder?
I don't remember how. No, it didn't weigh that much. But
no.
Looks fake to me.
Remember, we picked a total collection for Apollo 16 was probably a couple 100 pounds.
And when you got him into the module, when you got the rocks in there, did you have them in any kind of specific bag or anything?
We had them in vacuum boxes.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them,
right?
And then a lot of them were just in I don't remember exactly. In none of them, whether we had them brought back or just didn't have room for them in these rock boxes, we call them.
Mm-hmm.
But most of them were put in rock boxes outside, and so never saw atmosphere inside.
Right. So once you took your suit off, you weren't able to interact with them at all. You couldn't touch them. You could smell them.
I don't remember doing any of that.
No. What about once you got back to Earth? Did you touch them at all or hold them at all when you got back to Earth?
We went into the lunar receiving lab where they were, and we were able to put on
cuddled with it,
gloves or whatever it was, and sterilize that thing and just look at them.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember being picking them up and tossing them around or anything like that.
Were there any smells that you remembered? Like usually smells are good at triggering memories. Like was there any specific smell that was strange to you about the moon when you got back in the
Well, we were pretty stinky, I can say that.
A lot of
Oh,
BO.
my.
A lot of BO, but nothing else.
Is this a standard now, Seth? Is as long as you're not a flat earther, you're okay. That's how bad it's gotten. I'm sorry, buddy. But hey, you can hang out here anytime.
No other interesting smells.
No. Well, I mean, some of the food smelled. You could, smell a tuna salad or something.
What about
like
like dust or something? Like dust.
You know what this makes me think of? This makes me think of that movie Joe Dirt, where like David Spade thought he had a meteor, but it was a big chunk of shit from the airplane's septic tank that dropped down. And he was like walking around town with it. He was eating his French fries and dunking ketchup on it. Oh man, classic.
From the moon on your suit or on your boots or something, anything like that? No.
I don't remember any smell from but sometimes that smell, there was a gunpowder smell sometimes. And
what was that from?
I don't know. It's probably moon dust, but I'm not sure. But there's no organic material in it, like gunpowder.
Right.
So
Okay, so this moon rock debate is difficult because we don't have any moon rocks and we haven't done any analysis on any moon
we
rocks.
picked up that one, Big Muley.
Okay. Yeah, it looks absolutely nothing like the petrified wood on the left.
No.
So it was given to this guy. So I guess the story is true. I mean, if we've corroborated it with AI and with Bart's article that gift was given, but it wasn't. It was given by the U.S. ambassador to the Prime Minister of the Netherlands.
The one on the left?
The one on the left, yeah. And it was he was told.
It doesn't look like any of the moon rocks we collected.
Right.
Well, you said they were different at different landing sites earlier. That the rocks at your site in Apollo 11
So
were
a
different.
politician
Were the rocks
lied
different at
about
different landing
having
sites?
a
Did they
moon
look
rock.
different?
Fucking shocker.
Not that I
Politician lied.
recall. Not that different. They're not that much different.
Right. Okay.
The number one proof is what we have next. And I'm answering your question
Here we go.
about what
Number
proof
one
there
proof.
is.
Here
Now,
we
I
go.
gave NASA the benefit
About what specifically?
about how they didn't go to the moon. They can't leave Earth orbit. They still can't leave Earth orbit.
Are we talking about radiation belts now?
No, I'm talking about the footage of them faking being halfway to the moon.
The footage. Okay.
If you show,
I do after this, I would like to talk about the radiation belts, if that's okay.
That's next after this.
Perfect.
Right? And so first, let's look at the slide, D8. This is at the beginning of the reel. I asked NASA for every video, every film from Apollo 11, figuring if they faked it, they're more likely to have made a mistake the first time they faked it. Now, keep in mind, I went from being the biggest fan, gaga, worshiping the Apollo 11 project with pictures.
Yeah, it kind of sounds personal a little bit. But so 6 times they faked a moon landing 6 times.
On my wall, everywhere I went, like a shrine, to having an open mind that maybe they faked it, to looking into it, being given $1 million by somebody who builds rockets for NASA to investigate it, who said they were fake, and then stumbling upon this evidence, which is what convinced me that they were fake.
What? So let me ask you a question, y'all. How many times has someone given you $1 million to investigate something you're interested in? Nobody? You know what I need? I need that cricket sound effect, right? You know why? Because that shit doesn't happen. That's why. Oh my God. Okay. Well, the plot thickens, and we're going to have to do a little research on that. Okay. Let's get back to Mr. Sibrel here.
fake. In fact, this footage was shown to 2 NBC news directors. They both agreed it proved that Apollo 11 never left Earth orbit, and they were threatened by the federal government not to broadcast it or to have their license pulled. So the first part you'll see in D8 is the slide that says not for public distribution.
Oh, it's not popped up.
There we go.
Okay. So that shows that this is not for public distribution. Now, the next clip is at the very...
Let's read it. It says, this film of the Apollo 11 mission was produced as a report film by the Manned Spacecraft Center and is not for general public distribution.
Yeah, I asked NASA for unedited footage, and everything I got was pre-edited with a voiceover, and it's the same footage over and over again on 10 different reels, exact same footage. Most reporters are satisfied with that. I'm investigating the possibility that they faked it, and I asked for everything, specifically unedited footage. I got this and one other reel that was unedited. Now, at the very beginning of the reel, clip 9, which you're about to play, you'll hear NASA say, the TV picture looks great. Then there is exactly 4 seconds of dead air. You'll hear a third party that's not NASA, not the astronauts, presumably the CIA. And after 4 seconds go by, they tell Neil Armstrong in a private earpiece, talk. And then he starts speaking because he's claiming that he is halfway to the moon at this point in the mission. The timestamp indicates, according to the script, that they're supposed to be halfway to the moon. In fact, they never left Earth orbit. They can't leave Earth orbit now, and there's a number of reasons for that. So,
Charlie, have you ever seen this footage before?
No, it's crazy.
Okay.
Yeah, it is crazy how corrupt the federal government is.
Well,
so
I mean, you're calling me a liar. I never went to the moon.
Well, obviously. I mean,
Okay.
what surprise. You knew you were going to be here.
I
You
don't
knew who
know.
was going to
12
be here
of us-
before you got here.
12 of
you
us-
act like it's a surprise.
I
It's
am
a good
a
acting.
surprise. I didn't realize that you thought it was all a fake.
You knew that. You
No, I
reminded
didn't.
me of our phone conversation 20 years ago when you walked in the door. That I said you quoted me
I
word
showed
for
you
word.
I showed you his website
that I had
before
proof
you came down
that we
here.
didn't go to the moon. You knew when he invited you. This is no surprise, and yet you're acting like you're surprised. This is why you should get the Academy Award. Now, the
All right.
reason is if he's halfway to the moon, there would be an estimated 2-second radio time there and 2 seconds back. So they're faking a radio delay.
Okay.
You'll hear NASA. You'll hear 4 seconds go by. You'll hear a third party that's not NASA, not the astronauts, prompt Neil Armstrong with talk. And that way they can fake the 4-second radio delay. Go ahead and play clip 9.
Hello, Apollo 11. Houston, Goldstone says that the TV looks great. Over. Hello, Apollo 11. Houston, Goldstone says that the TV looks great. Over.
Okay, so
And
there's
how was it? Where did you get this stuff from again?
from NASA.
NASA sent you this.
Bill
And
Casing,
one second. They sent it to you by mistake?
Either that or one of my sources at NASA who said the missions were fake, thinks a whistleblower sent it to me.
Okay.
And so...
Hold on, Charlie, what do you make of that?
I don't understand what he's talking about here, but the missions were not fake. They sent me to the moon.
And we understand that. You've been saying that for 56 years.
Hold on, Bart. The footage that we just watched was from Apollo 11. Could you hear it? Can you hear it in your headphones? It's Houston communicating with the astronauts on the radio, and then you hear a 4-second delay, and then you can hear the audio of someone going, talk. And then you hear Neil Armstrong responding to Houston. Let's watch it one more time. Let's show Charlie one more time.
I didn't get that.
Yeah, let's show him one more time. Just read the text.
Hello, Apollo 11. Houston, Goldstone says that the TV looks great. Over.
2, 3, 4.
You see,
Does that make sense?
No. They can't leave Earth orbit today, and they can't leave Earth orbit in 1969.
somebody said talk.
So the
Maybe
footage
he's tired of waiting.
is footage of the moon, and you could hear Neil talking to Houston, right?
I don't know what that's
In
supposed
that
to be
video
proof
clip,
of.
you could hear them talking, and there's a little voice that pops up after 4 seconds that says "talk" to Neil. Why would there be a voice?
I don't know.
Telling
have no
Neil to
idea.
talk.
Yeah.
Okay. He has no
Are they
idea.
on the moon, or
They're halfway, right?
They're supposed to be halfway. To
So
the
this
moon.
is when they were halfway to the moon, communicating with Houston, and after Houston said something on the radio, there was 4 seconds, and then somebody on the radio saying "talk" to Neil, instructing Neil to respond to Houston after 4 seconds. Why do you think that would be?
I don't know.
Okay.
In my recollection, I was in mission control for Apollo 10. I was Capcom. I was in mission control for Apollo 11. It's Capcom, and nothing like this ever happened in mission control.
No, there would never be anybody saying "talk" to anybody.
No.
It would just be as soon as you hear it, you would respond.
Generally, that was true. Yeah.
Okay. What were the exceptions?
I can't think of any right now, but I mean, if say again, Houston, or say you a lot of reasons that mission control had not mission control, but we had problems, scratchy communication.
So if you couldn't understand,
yeah,
okay, I see what you're saying.
Say again, whatever.
Yeah, except the quality, the EQ of the audio of talk is completely different. It's not obviously NASA
Understood.
who just spoke,
Right.
and it's not Neil Armstrong who responded. They're faking a 4-second radio delay to pretend that they're beyond Earth orbit.
So this is him. So Bart's
Okay.
position is that video with them with the voice coming in and saying "talk" is them trying to fake a 4-second delay. That's part of his argument. Okay. When you guys were traveling through the Van Allen belts, were you guys paying close attention to like where?
Now, if you're interested in this, if you're watching this, or you watched it on Danny Jones already, or you are into the whole theory that maybe we didn't go to the moon, the Van Ryan belt is basically just picture a belt wrapped around the Earth, essentially. And this belt is full of really high levels of radiation, the kind of radiation that could cause, real damage to a person, even potentially cause damage to equipment. And Bart Sibrel's, one of his big arguments is that we can't get through the Van Ryan belt. Therefore, we couldn't have sent people to the moon. He states that the craft that have gone to the moon were unmanned. Any moon mission was unmanned because humans can't travel through that Van Ryan belt. And apparently even some equipment cannot travel through that Van Ryan belt. So that's why you'll hear them refer to it quite frequently.
Where in the Van Allen belts you were, and also before you, like when you were preparing, you guys did an unbelievable amount of prep and training for this, right? What were for the whole mission, right? What were the conversations like during training with anybody, including Von Braun, about astronaut safety when it comes to radiation and the Van Allen belts? What were those conversations like?
There wasn't very much conversation about it. It wasn't any danger. You're going through so fast, you're exposed to so much radiation, but it's just boom, you're through, and the belts are high radiation, but they aren't very thick, so you just go right straight through them, and you don't get much radiation. I don't remember our dosimeters. We had dosimeters, several of them on our body and some in a spacecraft. I don't remember.
And that measures the level of radiation
that we're receiving. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, according to NASA, the radiation belts are 30,000 miles thick.
Right.
And if you were going 20,000 miles an hour, that would be an hour and a half in the radiation to the moon.
Would be an hour and a half. It'd be a little over an
well,
hour.
30,000 miles would be, if it's 30,000 miles thick and you're going 20,000 miles an hour.
You said 25.
Well, he said 20.
No.
Well, and if
you start out at 25,000 miles an hour, but you slow down. Earth gravity slows you down.
At the time you're traveling through the Van Allen belts, through the outer part, the thick part of the Van Allen belts, how fast would you be going?
I don't remember exactly.
Over 20?
Yeah, over 20.
Over 20,000.
Well, then that would put you
so
to
you'd
the
be in
moon.
there for an hour, roughly. You'd be in the Van Allen belts for an hour.
How thick are they? I don't even remember how thick they are.
Well, according to that math would suggest that it's about an hour in there, right? Maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, about an hour and a half to the moon, hour and a half back at 20,000 miles an hour. But then there's a contradiction. If you're going 20,000 miles an hour with inertia, you'd be at the moon in a little over 10 hours rather than 3 days.
But they slow down, right? Don't they slow down?
Allegedly, once they got to the moon, obviously they would have to slow down.
Allegedly they slowed down, but we know the truth. I think it's pretty humorous, and this is why I laugh, okay? Because you have the astronaut who did it, and he's the belt is like not, it's like an afterthought. They weren't even worried about it. He's like, I don't know. They put little detectors on us, and they, we're like, don't worry about it. He's a fucking astronaut, dude. He's gonna go. He wants to go to the moon, right? Like, he's not worried about a little bit of radiation. And so he really didn't even pay that much attention to it. And sounds like they got through it just fine. But if you go back and you listen to like the Bart Sibrel, I don't know if I'm messing up his last name, my apologies, Bart. But his interview with Joe Rogan, where this is like a huge deal. I mean, he goes on about the radiation in this belt and how it is just impossible, literally impossible, for people to go through this thing. But now he's sat across from a dude that did it. And he's essentially calling this dude a liar. And that's why, Buzz Aldrin popped him in the face. Maybe I'll play that again just for fun. Yeah, this is yep, there he is. Had a little more hair back then. Buzz Aldrin's like, get away. He doesn't. So he pops him in the face because they call him a fraud. So when you call a badass who's been to the moon a fraud, prepare to get a pop in the face. And that's what happened to this gentleman here.
Slow down to land on the moon. Now,
may I say something?
Yes.
Okay, so you leave Earth orbit. You're in Earth orbit. Mm-hmm. You got to accelerate to leave Earth orbit.
Correct.
I don't remember exactly the figure, but you accelerate to Earth. Then the Earth starts slowing you down. Okay.
At what point does it start slowing you down exactly?
As soon as you shut the engine off.
Oh, okay, got it.
Okay, but you're beyond the you had enough velocity to get out of Earth orbit and go straight to the moon, or you got shot out in front. It's like being a shotgun shooter.
Mm-hmm.
Here's you're aiming this way, but here's the target. By the time you get there, you're in orbit. I mean, you get to there so you can get into orbit.
Mm-hmm.
And I lost my train of thought now, but what so
come on, Chuck,
it was never a problem with us about being in the Van Allen belts. You go through so fast, you don't get that much radiation.
So you guys never had a conversation about what trajectory to take through the Van Allen belts, because they can be thinner at the top and they're wider at the.
And y'all, to be honest, Bart Sibrel's the only person I've ever heard make this argument about the Van Allen belt. And I'm sure that's probably just me. But I have never heard anyone else in the podcast world, in the education field, I never heard anybody go on about how the Van Allen belt is just impossible to get through because of radiation, other than Bart.
Like the equator, right? So you guys never like decided we got to go through it at this angle or that angle?
We never, the crew had no say.
Got it.
Mission control made the trajectory.
And you weren't aware of it at all either?
Yeah, we knew when we were going through the Van Allen belts.
Oh, you did know when you were going through the Van Allen belts. Okay.
And I think that, I don't remember exactly, but we had dosimeters in the spacecraft, and they must have read something, but I don't remember the details.
Okay.
We have clip 14 of Kelly Smith of the Orion Project, which they said the radiation readings were classified. Here's a video of a new generation of NASA astronauts. We saw one saying they intentionally destroyed a technology for the first time in world history. And here we have the young guy in his 20s saying that the belts are dangerous radiation and the technology.
I mean, again, I played that video earlier. Amy Eskridge saying it several years ago that NASA does that all the time. In fact, if you're in Huntsville and you're an inventor at NASA, you've probably had a couple of your projects scrapped. Even if they looked and worked and operated perfectly, they still might have scrapped it.
Technology to go through them
It's not
has not
unheard
been
of.
invented yet.
And
Go
this
ahead
is from 2004. This video he's about to play is from 2014 during the build up to the Orion missions, right?
D14.
We are headed 3,600 miles above Earth, 15 times higher from the planet than the International Space Station. As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation. Naturally, we have to pass through this danger zone twice, once up and once back. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
Okay, so he said we must solve these challenges before
we know he said
send
it 5
people through
times.
this region of space. So the radiation protection is a challenge that has yet to be resolved. We must solve these challenges in the future before we send people through this region of space. So the challenges of the radiation have not been resolved, and they must do it before they send people through this region of space. So that
So we
there
never went to the moon.
What do you what do you make of that though? Like what do you make of this astronaut in 2014 saying that we have to solve the challenges of radiation before we send people to the Van Allen belts? What is your reaction to that?
Through the Van Allen belts? Is that what he's saying?
Does he say through?
Yeah.
No, he said into this region. I believe he said.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't want to orbit it.
He said through this region of space.
Can you play it again? Can you play exactly what he says again? Did he say through or
through?
We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
Through this region of space is what he said.
Yeah, onto the moon. The project is Orion, which intends to send people to the moon through this region of space.
Was that the objective of Orion, to send people to the moon?
That's right. It was the precursor to Armistice. So it's all about
Google
returning
what
to
was the
moon.
objective of the Orion missions? The objective of NASA's Orion mission was to transport human crews on deep space missions, starting with a return to the moon under the Artemis program and eventually extending to Mars. Orion is designed to provide long-duration crew support, protect astronauts from deep space radiation, and handle high-speed re-entry into Earth's atmosphere.
Okay.
Mars makes more sense because you're going to be out there for way longer.
Well, look at article. Well,
But he's talking about the Van.
So we're coming up on President Trump is going to be making an address from the Oval Office here in about 7 minutes. Since it's Trump, he'll probably be like half an hour late. So I'll be keeping an eye on that. and we will definitely hop over once that coverage begins.
The
It's
Van
talking
Allen
about
belts.
just through this region of space, which is the Van Allen radiation belt.
Yes.
We must solve the radiation challenges, which means they're not solved. And then he says, before we send people through this region of space. So if they haven't been resolved yet, then the Apollo astronauts didn't go through them.
Well,
it says so right
it's
there out of his own mouth.
It's definitely, I'm not saying that the astronauts never went to the moon. I'm in the middle here. But it is very weird that a guy in 2014 would say we have to solve the problem of the Van Allen belt's radiation before we go through. It's odd, right?
It sounds like to me it's odd, but we did it.
Right.
Okay.
Well, that's why I'm saying you did not.
Right.
Obviously.
Where did 200 pounds of moon rocks come from?
I just showed you. Von Braun picked him up from Antarctica. There's a picture of that on the web, picking up lunar meteorites before he went to the moon for the first time. Seems like a weird use of his time. Moon rocks have proven to be fake. And according to a contractor that I spoke to at length, he says NASA has
According
ceramics
to a
land,
contractor
which can mimic moon
that I
rocks.
spoke
Now,
to.
go to link 15 as we stay on the radiation. This is an article from Reuters that says radiation prevents travel to the moon. That's slide number 15.
Well, I walked on the moon. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm John
Yeah, you
Young.
keep saying that. We know that. We've been saying it for 56 years, and you're not going to admit your guilt. Nobody who was, brought to trial for
We're just
a war
trying
crime
to,
ever admitted
we're
their
going
guilt
through
either.
each piece of evidence and trying to rationally analyze what it means and let the audience decide. And a lot of this, I realize
And now you know why that guy got punched in the face. Listen, it's one thing to ask questions and be curious and try to figure out the science and maybe even theorize, excuse me, and play around with the idea that that these guys didn't do it. But the bottom line is they fucking did it. And there was a shit ton of witnesses, including TV coverage, the night that it happened, radio communications, phone calls, preparation, training, real American lives, and real American heroes. These were the gentlemen that were flying jets at Mach 1 when it had never been done before. These were the gentlemen that would be test pilots for jets that were out there breaking speed records on like a monthly basis. It was a dangerous job. And they thrived in it. Do yourself a favor, go watch The Right Stuff if you haven't yet. Astronauts are a different breed. If tech guys say, don't worry about the radiation, we got it, just follow our orders, follow our directions, you're going to be good, that's what they're going to fucking do. They're worried about the Van Allen belt. Of course they knew about it. They're astronauts. They were briefed on everything. But they weren't going to let that stop them from getting to the moon. And they did it multiple times. So, yeah, I mean, like the Van Allen belt thing, you can tell I've kind of heard it before, especially from Sibrel. Yeah. Let's see here. So we've got a couple more arguments. Apollo didn't have enough. Ooh, what is that? Apollo didn't have enough fuel to reach the moon. Oh, okay. Astronauts confess we've never been to the moon. Now, if they're talking about when Buzz Aldrin
to the moon.
Okay.
And clip D20 is a space shuttle astronaut saying Earth orbit is their limit. That's why they're faking being halfway to the moon. And that clip we showed for radiation. We must solve these challenges before we go through that region of space. Here's an astronaut in clip 20 saying the farthest they can go with current technology is Earth orbit, and they hope to eventually go to the moon.
Okay, let's watch it. 30 seconds.
Right now, we only can fly in Earth orbit. That's the farthest that we can go. And this new system that we're building is going to allow us to go beyond and hopefully take humans into the solar system to explore. So the moon, Mars, asteroids, the moon, Mars, asteroids, the moon, Mars, asteroids. There's a lot of destinations.
Like, that doesn't mean shit. We don't have any context. None. He could be talking about the International Space Station. The International Space Station is stuck in our orbit. We can't move big living quarters like this out beyond our orbit. Hopefully, one day we figure that out, and we can. Come on, guy. You literally, and this is why I just have a hard time listening to him, because give me a break, dude. This isn't evidence of shit. You are cherry picking things people say and highlighting them and trying to fold them into this weird little package narrative where when you it just doesn't make any fucking sense what you're saying. I'm sorry. It's easier to believe that it would have been easier to go to the moon than to fake it. All these things you're saying that these folks would have had to do. It's fucking crazy. I'm sorry. There's just no way.
Destinations that we could go to, and we're building these building block components in order to allow us to do that eventually.
Right.
Yeah. He says eventually go to the moon.
Sure.
And he's not the only one. There's two other short clips. I mean, if he's misspeaking, then we have three people misspeaking. The next one says this is the beginning of humans leaving Earth orbit. That's clip D21. The beginning.
No way. 3 or 4 people in the 60 to 70 year history of NASA and all of the recorded conversations and all of the trainings and all of the classes and all of the events and a few people misspoke. So the fuck what? None of it is evidence. None of it. You could not, and listen, you can convince a grand jury just about any damn thing. But you could not convince a grand jury. You wouldn't even come close to convincing even a grand jury that you could even take this to trial. There's so little evidence. And the connections that he's pointing out, those are in your head, dude. I know, I'm being a jerk, but the guy's an asshole, so I don't care.
Of humans leaving Earth orbit is what this astronaut says. Clip 21.
Okay.
But we're also really pushing the boundaries in terms of where we're going forward with exploration. I think humans are naturally driven to do this. And this is really the beginning, I think, of human beings leaving low Earth orbit.
And the next clip is from about 4 months ago.
Like what? That's what I'm saying. There's no context. She could have very easily been talking about regular citizens coming to space and coming to low Earth orbit. But we won't know that because we only got Bart's little clip.
An astronaut for the Artemis program saying this is going to be the first time we send humans to the moon. He even says before it, you got to pay attention. You may not like this.
Okay, if going to the moon was a lie and it's a big conspiracy that NASA has been hiding for decades, closing in on a century. And then someone just slips up and says, we haven't been to the moon. Come on.
This or words to the effect that the other guy said.
Okay.
Clip
This is
D22.
the last clip we're going to play on this topic. Then we're going to move to the next one.
Sure. That's how I have it.
Okay.
It's going to be an odd answer. It might land wrong, but I'm going to try anyway. This is the first time we're going to send humans to the moon. This is the first time we're going to send humans to the moon. This is the first time we're going to send humans to the moon.
Even
what did he say after that? You cut it out. What did he say after that?
Well, he went on talking and they passed the microphone back and forth.
Yeah, but how do you know?
Oh, give me a break, dude. This guy's a fucking clown. I can't even believe he was on Joe Rogan. I can't believe he was on Danny Jones. This guy is full of shit.
For 3 hours.
How do you know he didn't? How do the viewers know that he didn't say in 53 years or something like that? Like you just cut it.
He didn't. You can find
Okay,
it.
we'll
and
take your
look
word
at
for it, I guess. But
yeah,
like,
I mean, I
you have to
listened to it.
include
It's
that
just they passed the microphone around. He even said something to the words of the effect, this may rock the boat of the audience or whatever, something like that.
Okay. All right.
That's so fucking
I want to talk about the micrometeorites. What was the threat level of like the micrometeorites when you were on the moon? Because from what I understand is there's a high risk of being hit by micrometeorites, right? When you're on the surface of the moon.
We had if they saw a solar flare, the only thing I remember, if we had a solar flare, we would have to get back into the lunar module and lift off and then join up and point the heat shield towards the solar flare. I don't remember anything about micrometeorites.
No, there was no discussion or no warnings about trying to mitigate micrometeorites.
In von Braun's book, the one that has the quote, which is called Voyage to the Moon, he says that micrometeorites would cause a catastrophic or fatal error, 50% chance every 24 hours. Thousands of them hit the moon every second. He says you'd have to immediately go into a lead shelter or a cave on the moon. He said it would cause death 50% of the time every 24 hours. There's so many of them.
Well, we made it a lot longer than that, and nobody died
with somehow 16 tanks of oxygen in that little backpack in order to be out there for 8 hours at a time. To me, this is one of the most striking examples of why the moon landings are fake. If you look at D23, this is the shadows.
Okay, let's see.
I'm a filmmaker.
Oh, the shadows. Oh, okay.
My job as a filmmaker is to make fake scenes look real.
Yeah,
I use lighting to mimic the sun all the time. Fooled other filmmakers. They thought it was the sunset, but it was really a light. You can prove that the moon landings are fake with this one picture. Okay. Because the sun, being about 1,000 times bigger in diameter than the Earth, casts shadows in the same direction over the entire Earth or moon. They're always parallel. It's mathematically and scientifically impossible for shadows to intersect in sunlight, as you can tell in the photograph.
Okay, now let's be very clear here. You just heard a gentleman say something is mathematically impossible, can't be done. Bart Sibrel holds no degree. No degree. Not even an associate's. Nothing. His claim to fame is 2 documentaries he made about the moon landing being fake. And that's probably the only reason he gets any attention at all, because it's almost a joke. Someone with no education and no experience in the field trying to tell the community, tell the people of our nation that one of our greatest achievements was fucking fake. No, buddy, I think you're fake. That's my opinion. Unbelievable. And it just makes you want, like, how do these people get on these shows? Like, Joe Rogan is a huge show, and he was on there for 3 hours just shoveling this bullshit. And if you just take a few minutes and step back and listen to what he's saying and make him slow down and make him actually get to a point before jumping to the next thing, because he doesn't want you to figure out that the current thing is nonsense. That's what filibustering is, right? You're filling in any chance of dead air to be questioned. It is going on and on and on and on. How many times did we hear Danny Jones tell him to stop? Dude, stop. I'm trying to, you keep talking over people. I'm trying to figure this out. Stop it. Stop it. He's just an obnoxious blowhard, y'all. And he's made a career out of lying about the moon landing being fake. The moon landing, see, he's got me so I can't even talk. I'm so upset. The moon landing was very much real. And if somebody wants to come at me with some real data and some real evidence other than trust me, bro, then I will absolutely listen to it. I don't have a fucking dog in the fight. I don't work for NASA. But I can't stand con artists. I can't stand snake oil salesmen. I can't stand guys like that. I just can't. So I think it's safe to say we won't be having Bart Sibrel on the show anytime soon. Let's see. I think I had some questions. Who came off more convincing, Sibrel or Duke? Does this debate connect to UAP secrecy? No, I don't think so. I feel like this particular debate is the only guy left that will try to debate that we didn't land on the moon, which is Bart Sibrel, presenting a case built on a house of cards. This is an important fact, y'all. Just in life in general. When the facts conflict, follow the incentives. When it doesn't make sense, follow the incentives. Sometimes out there in the real world, you'll have to do something that doesn't make much sense. Oh, when you stay here, you have to close the door and lock it 3 times left and right, and then make sure this thing's, facing down when you push it down. Well, that's just the consequences of being at that other place. Bruce says y'all slow. Yeah, Bruce. I mean, look, it's a fun thought experiment, right? Like, it's cool to think about, but when you got a joker like this out there pounding his chest, he's calling us idiots, Bruce. He's saying we're stupid because we believe astronauts actually landed on the moon. Like, we're the ignorant dumbasses for believing that. Get the fuck out of here with that nonsense. Good Lord. Missing data doesn't mean missing events. Or what Bart would say, or does it? Technical answers don't always equal honest answers. In fact, if you're getting a very highly technical answer from someone, odds are It's not the right answer. It's weird how the human brain works. Space secrecy didn't start with UAPs. Well, we know that. Right? We know that NASA had to run a lot of classified programs, especially in the early days, and even up until now. I mean, how many missions did the what was it, the TR-38, I think it was? Hang on, let me find it for you. But they have a small space shuttle. So they told us that manned shuttles were done with. We weren't doing manned missions any longer. But Boeing did create a ship, and I have the video here somewhere. Give me just a moment. This is gonna drive me nuts. Yeah, like you ever go nuts when you know you have something, you just cannot remember where you stuck it. Let's see here. Here we go. All right, the X-37B. That's what I was thinking of. Let me grab this for us here. Now, you still might not have seen, and understand this thing is several years old now. It's not new. This thing has been around for quite a while. But yeah, here, check this out.
Department of Transportation will rescind the Biden fuel economy prices. And I hate to say that because they were really not economy. They were really, they were anti-economy. They were horrible what they were doing to the costs and actually making the car much worse. But these policies forced automakers to build cars using expensive technologies that drove up costs, drove up prices, and made the car much worse. The action is expected to save the typical consumer at least $1,000 off the price of a new car, and we think substantially more than that. Under the Trump administration, $70 billion are now being invested in the American auto industry. Ford has announced it will invest $5 billion across its Kentucky and Michigan plants. Is that a correct statement?
That's right.
That's a lot, $5 billion. You could do more. Creating at least 4,000 new jobs. Stellantis announced that it will invest $13 billion to expand its U.S.-based manufacturing by more than 50% and open new manufacturing facilities across the country. And I think a big part of that is also the tariffs. Because of tariffs, they're coming in, not only the automobile industry, AI, we're leading China in AI, we're leading everybody in AI, we're leading everybody in everything. We have the hottest country right now. I will tell you, a lot of political people behind me, great political people, very successful political people. We have the hottest country anywhere in the world 1 year ago, we had a dead country, and now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. And it started from November 5th, but it also started when we did the tariffs, and we've had tremendous support on the tariffs. It's bringing in trillions of dollars of wealth. It's bringing in national security. And I've stopped 8 wars, and of the 8 wars, 5 of them have been because of tariffs and trade. So they're very important. And General Motors plans to invest $4 billion as it brings its manufacturing back to the United States from Mexico. After falling by 5% under Biden, U.S. auto production has surged by 10% so far this year. You know, I won the auto workers vote, but now even the head of the auto workers said Trump is the greatest president we've ever seen. And he happens to be right about that. But we're protecting our auto workers, and we're making it easier for every family to afford high-quality cars. In other words, we're bringing automobiles back and the manufacturing of automobiles back into this country. We lost 52% over the years, 52% of our automobile manufacturing. You see it, closed factories all over the place. Now they're all opening up. They're being, in most cases, they're being knocked down, and new ones are being built in their place. And a big beneficiary is the state of Michigan, but South Carolina, even states that didn't really do too much with the automobiles, they're opening up plants. It's been amazing. So between automobile plants, AI plants, and plants of every other nation, really every other type, including chips, we're going to have a big percentage of the chip market very soon. Not because of the CHIPS Act, which was horrible and ridiculous, where we just gave these companies billions and billions of dollars, and they just kept the money, but because of what we did with tariffs. They have to build here, otherwise they're going to have to pay tariffs. They won't be able to do business in the United States. And we're going to have a big percentage of the chip industry. As of about a year ago, 2 years ago, we had none. And now we're going to have a very big percentage when it all finishes out. So I'd like to ask Secretary Duffy to speak, and then Mr. Farley, and then Filosa, and Urbanik, and Castrita. And also we're going to ask some of our political leaders to speak, because let me tell you, they went out of their way. This was not easy. And people were brainwashed. This is a green new scam. And people were paying too much for a car that didn't work as well. And now they're going to have a great car that's going to be environmentally friendly, but it's going to cost you a lot less, and it's going to work great. All of the nonsense is being taken out of the cars. So, Secretary Duffy, could you say a few words?
Thank you, Mr. President. So yesterday at the cabinet meeting, the president was talking about affordability, and the way that Democrats talk about affordability is a lie. Today is a perfect example of that. So these CAFE standards used what was contrary to the law. The Congress set a rule that says you have to look at combustion engines. Biden and Buttigieg actually did an analysis using Buttigieg used EVs and hybrids to come up with a 62 mile an hour per gallon standard, which I think the car companies will tell you is completely unattainable. So they spent a lot of money on technology trying to meet the unattainable standard, driving up the cost of a car, number one. And then number two, if they couldn't meet the unattainable standard, they had to trade for carbon, costing billions of dollars, and again, driving up the price of the car. So, Mr. President, what Democrats were doing were not making cars more affordable, they're making them less affordable. The consequence of that is going to be that more Americans can afford to buy a new car, which means they're going to be safer on the roads because of all the great new technology we have that save lives. So we'll have less death on American roads. These rules are going to allow the automakers to make vehicles that Americans want to purchase, not vehicles that Joe Biden and Buttigieg wants them to build, which is important. But also, this is important for American jobs. The more cars we sell, the more jobs we have in this country. And so this is jobs, this is freedom, and this is common sense, Mr. President. So thank you for your leadership. And I appreciate what the Senate did with the big, beautiful bill and what we've done here today. So thank you, Mr.
Very much. A big, beautiful bill is it's something. It's amazing. Wait till people see the benefits and the lower taxes that they're going to have, lower regulations. So how about Ford?
Mr. President and Secretary, all the important lawmakers here, competitors, today is a victory of common sense and affordability. We're very proud of Ford to be the #1 auto producer in our country. 80% of the vehicles we sell here we make in our country. Right. And we never left. unlike many of our competitors. We're the #1 exporter, and we have the most auto factory workers. And this CAFE standard that is aligned with customer demand is the right move for a lot of reasons. We were #2 last year in EV sales, we were #3 in hybrid, and we're the leading brand for combustion. We believe that people should be able to make a choice, as you said, Mr. President, and we will invest more in affordable vehicles. This allows us to invest in affordable vehicles made in the U.S., which we will take the lead on, and will allow us to make vehicles more affordable. So thank you for making this step for all of you.
Thank you very much. One of the other things we're doing, it's separate from this meeting, but I think everybody here would agree with it. If you go to Japan, where I just left, and if you go to South Korea and Malaysia and other countries, they have a very small car, sort of like the Beetle used to be with the Volkswagen. They're very small, they're really cute. And I said, how would that do in this country? And everyone seems to think good, but you're not allowed to build them. And I've authorized the secretary to immediately approve the production of those cars. So you'll be able to buy, they really are, they're actually, some of them are really beautiful, actually. If you take a look, Honda, some of the Japanese companies do a beautiful job. But we're not allowed to make them in this country. And I think you're going to do very well with those cars. So we're going to approve those cars. Would you like to say something about that?
Well, no, just that he never stops working, so even when he's on Asian time, he's calling me at midnight in the States. But he gave me the directive to clear the regulations on this, which we have. And so if Toyota or any other company wants to make smaller, more affordable cars, fuel efficient, we have cleared the deck so they can make them in America and sell them in America.
They're really nice and less expensive. And it really gives people a chance to have a car, you know, have a brand new car as opposed to a car that maybe isn't so great. And so you car companies start thinking about that. I think it's going to be a tremendous market. Please, would you like to say something?
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a great day for us at Stellantis today, because it's the day where we see CAFE regulation reconciled with real customers' demand. That's why at Stellantis we decided to invest to Jeep, Ram, Dodge, and Chrysler $13 billion in the next 4 years, increasing production by 50%, delivering to the market 5 new vehicles, and creating 5,000 additional jobs. That's because we believe in what you, Secretary Duffy, and all your team is doing in this country. We believe in growth, and we are ready to invest even more. So thank you very much. Thank you very much also for this great news of the K cars, which we are very interested in, and we are very looking forward to work with Secretary Duffy, your team, in the future for the next steps. Thank you very much.
Well, get ready for those cars because we've already cleared the way. You can start right away.
We will. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Please.
Mr. President, thank you so much for having me. We support your leadership for this issue that is so important to the auto industry. I'm here representing the hard-working men and women of Orion Assembly in Michigan. The facility, our manufacturing facility there, is currently going through a retool so that we can build additional U.S. manufactured pickup trucks and full-size sport utilities for our customers, and we're so excited about that. And thank you for your support. Secretary Duffy, thank you as well.
And this is largely coming in because of the tariff situation. We're taking in trillions of dollars, actually, trillions, and we have so many other advantages, but these great companies are coming back to the United States. They left the United States. If somebody was sitting behind this desk that knew what they were doing, that wouldn't have happened. They would have said, well, you can sell your car here, but we're going to put 100% tariff, and you would have never had the auto industry leave. Again, we lost more than 50% of our auto industry, and now it's all coming back, and I think it's coming back. Ultimately, it's going to be bigger. I believe it's going to be bigger than it was before, actually. But it's an honor to have you here. And please, would you like to say something?
President,
thank you very much.
Tom Castrator, sir. I'm the chairman of National Automobile Dealers that represent 18,000 dealers in the country, along with 3,000 heavy-duty truck dealers. And what the actions that you've done as the president and your administration is definitely going to save our customers money. And you made your promises that let the consumer buy what they want, sir, and you delivered on that. And the other thing that you delivered was your promise in the big, beautiful bill the tax deduction on loans that had gone away some years back. And now that makes it affordable for our buyers that can save money through that loan of the tax, anywhere from several hundred to several thousand. So again, sir, on behalf of all the dealers and our customers, we appreciate what you and your administration have done, and of course our legislative support as well, Mr. President.
Thank you. That's very nice, and I'm glad you brought that up. We're allowing people to deduct. So if you go out and buy a car, and this is for middle income, but for lower income, no matter what, they never really had deductions. You know, rich people like deductions, but middle income people were never really afforded deductions, which is very unfair. You borrow money to buy a car, you're allowed to deduct the interest from your income tax. And I think that's going to be one of the most, in terms of your industry, I think it's going to be the biggest thing that we're talking about, maybe even bigger than CAFE standards. People are going to be able to borrow money, deduct it, so it's going to cost them essentially half. And
it'll help, yes, sir.
I think it's going to be a tremendous factory. They've never had a chance to do that before. And that's all done. That's all in the great, big, beautiful bill. So it's really terrific. I'd like to ask a couple of our political leaders to say, because you guys have done an amazing job. This was something that was going to be very tough. We had to fight lunatics to get it done, and they had no answers. You know, you just present them with the facts, and they just say, well, we're just not going to vote for it. They couldn't talk about it, but they didn't want to vote. I see Mike Kelly, my friend back there, who's been with me from day one, right?
Yep.
What do you have to say, Mike?
Well, you know what? I think you hit the key. Everybody's talking about the same thing. In America,
look at the way they like each other. You can see, there's no hatred between these two guys.
No, as long as I beat his price, we're friends. No, but you hit it right on the head. The American people have always been able to choose what they want to buy. Right. They don't want to be taken out of a market by people who, quite frankly, don't even drive their own car, and saying this is the way you've got to go going into the future. And say, well, you may say that, but you're not in the market. You have no idea. And I know the business we're in. At the end of the day, if you were there with me, I'd say, so, Mr. President, other than price, what's keeping you from taking the car home today? It's always price. And the fact that we can build a car that's affordable, that people want to buy, that's the key to it. What you've done is unlock the most ridiculous statute that ever came in with CAFE. It wasn't done by the Congress. It wasn't done. It was done by President Obama after the courts failed on it. So thank you for doing what you're doing. You're making America great again in every single way. Thank you.
Thank you. It's going to be so big for the auto manufacturers. People aren't even going to believe the impact this has. You know, Mike used to come to my rallies all the time, and we'd have a rally, and it was like 0 degrees. It was freezing, everyone, and he'd sit there without a shirt on. And I didn't need that, you know. I didn't say it was pretty, but he would sit there in the cold, and he didn't mind it at all. I said, that's one tough cookie, right?
You lit it up. We didn't need any heat. We were there.
We had a good time. We had a lot of great rallies.
We
right?
did. We did.
Pennsylvania. Please, Mr. Congressman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I represent the dealer body. I'm a dealer, and we got some other dealers in here, but this is huge for the dealer body, the local car dealer. We're going to be able to sell what the customer wants. The manufacturer's going to make what the customer wants. We've got all kinds of options to the big bill. It's going to enable people, as we talked about, to deduct payments and so forth. As we say in the business, they've never been cheaper than they are today, Mr. President. And it's going to be a great opportunity for the dealer body to sell what consumers want. And 99% of the businesses in America are small businesses. Many are car dealers, employ a lot of people. It's going to be a great year for us. We appreciate your leadership. And we appreciate, from a retail standpoint, we appreciate the manufacturers going to step up and build cars that customers want and that we want to sell. So thank you very much. It makes it a great country.
He's also a very brave congressman because he was there on the baseball field that horrible day with Steve Scalise and some other people. He was hit, but he took it very well. You took it very well. You're my pal.
Thank you.
Thanks. Great job.
Appreciate it.
Great job. Appreciate it. Kevin, could you say a few words of wisdom? One of the really smart economic forecasters, I will tell you, beyond an economist. He's a real forecaster. Please.
Sir, I think that there's a massive macroeconomic benefit to what we're doing today. And the way to think about it is that the car that has the best gas mileage that you could buy that has only gasoline is a Honda that gets about 36 miles per gallon. Joe Biden wanted to make every car on average be above 50. So there's no car made in the U.S. that you would be able to sell 2 years from now, 3 years from now under that rule. because what he wanted to do was make everybody have an electric car, as you know. But here's the thing, that if everybody had an electric car, then nobody would be buying gasoline anymore, and they'd have to take all the miles that they travel and put it on the grid. And so we would have to increase the production of electricity in the U.S. by 25% over the next couple of years if they had their way. And so you've really stopped a massive
Istanbul, when Ukraine presented a number of 300 kids for the beginning of the dialogue, Russia denied the very fact that there is such things as abducted kids. But we believe that the very fact that we hear the announcement of the return of Ukrainian kids with the support of the Russia is a testimony of the very fact that this crime have been committed.
How many children have been returned working with Russia?
At this point, we can only judge by formal numbers we know from the initiatives and testimonies you have, but if you don't mind, I will leave it to Maxim, who have the exact numbers collected.
And the reason I ask it, I understand the Underground Railroad. I'm trying to figure out if Russia cooperating at all in terms of defining the scope of the problem and helping return the children. So thank you all very much. Senator Schatz.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you to all of the testifiers. I'll start with Mr. Raymond. Can you walk us through what happened in terms of the contract termination, sort of when you were informed, how it got reversed, and then specifically what happened to the data file and how you sort of saved it?
On February 27th, we were informed that an exemption request by the now defunct Bureau of Conflict and Stabilization Operations to preserve us as essential was denied. And that day, we lost access to our database. That database had 13 large case files, which had contributed to the 4 indictments by the ICC against Russian High Command on attacks on civilian power generation infrastructure, as well as the kids' files. The kids' files included, for each kid, 30 to 40-page dossiers. We couldn't access it that morning. For several days, the State Department and our team and our prime implementer that we reported to were trying to find the location of these case files, which also included direct support to the Office of the Prosecutor General on specific homicides, which were not made public, performed with Department of Justice support. So we were trying to find, basically, the joke was, dude, where's my data? The situation is that there had been no plan for the preservation of the database.
Do you have the data now?
We do. And we were able, in our reinstatement, to transfer that data finally to Europol and to the Ukrainian government.
What's the annual amount that you receive from the federal government under normal circumstances?
It varied, but it was approximately $4 to $5 million to our team directly.
Okay. And you're saying that the status of your contract renewal is still in question?
No, we have been formally terminated as of June. We are no longer a implementer for the U.S. State Department.
Who is going to do that work?
I do not know, sir.
Do you believe that the State Department has a plan and is not telling you, or do you believe that they don't have a plan?
We met with our colleagues today at State Department and had a very good discussion, but I'm not privy to their plan.
Of the 4 categories of abducted children, are you able to break it down by percentage? Who's in an institution? Who is with a Russian family? Do you know, or are you at this point still guessing?
I'm going to try to keep this as not wonky as possible. For 2 of the groups, we have both like a fraction, a numerator and denominator, a number we've seen and a number we think exists. But for 2 of the groups, we don't have a denominator, meaning simply we don't know how many there could be. For the battlefield kids and for the kids in filtration, we don't know what that total data set could be. For the institution kids and for the kids in camps, we are beginning to get to a denominator, but we don't have a percentage yet, sir.
Give me obviously you don't have fidelity. No one has fidelity. That's what this work is all about. I get that. I'm just trying to get a sense for, are most of the kids in institutions, or most of the kids not? Give me a sense for, Of these 35,000 kids, how many of them are in camps or institutions versus families or elsewhere?
So I'll go from biggest set. We know we can order them 1, 2, 3, 4. The majority of the kids have been either indefinitely or temporarily in the camps. That's the plurality. Second group would be the institution kids. The third group is likely the battlefield kids, and fourth is filtration. But on third and fourth, I could be wrong on that.
Mr. Raymond, as it relates to the continuation of the work, whether it's your organization or some other organization or the State Department itself, could you please correspond with the committee on a relatively regular basis, with the permission of the chairman, on the status of those negotiations? Senator Rubio, Secretary Rubio, has conveyed to us multiple times that this remains a priority, but where the rubber hits the road, sometimes we have hit a number of tremendous challenges, and so sometimes we worry that even the secretary is not tracking, that some of these things are either happening or not happening under his nose, and so we'd like to serve as a convener and a communicator so that we don't miss a beat, and that preferably the people who are doing this excellent work just simply are able to continue to do it.
Senator Murray.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm really glad that this hearing is being held to help shine a light on one of the darkest aspects of Russia's bloody and unjustified war in Ukraine. Thousands of Ukrainian children that you've talked about have been kidnapped by Russia since this terrible war began. They've been abducted from their homes. They've been ripped out of their parents' arms. They've been sent, as we heard, to forced re-education programs, military training camps, and worse. The horror of this sort of crime is really hard to fathom, and that is why it resulted in Putin being charged for war crimes by the International Criminal Court, and it is the height of barbarity. So I really appreciate all of the witnesses today joining us and sharing your very powerful testimony and talking about the steps that we can take to secure justice for this ongoing atrocity and provide healing for the victims and survivors. Unfortunately, we simply cannot have this conversation without talking about the fact that, as Ranking Member Schatz just mentioned, earlier this year, the Trump administration abruptly cut off funding to help track the victims of Russian kidnapping and deliver justice. And as noted already, that data was almost all lost and delayed in being sent to the proper authorities. That was absolutely senseless. And today there is still no ongoing U.S. funding for this specific work. Now, I wish that we had the Trump administration officials here with us today to explain why that program was terminated and to talk about efforts in this space moving forward. I understand, Mr. Chairman, they were invited, but they're not here today, and that really is inexplicable to me. We have also seen the Trump administration put forward drafts of so-called peace plans that read more like Russian wish lists than a serious plan. We really need better from this administration. We all need to stand firm by our allies in Ukraine, and we need to stand firm for basic principles like accountability and justice, especially for something as fundamentally immoral as kidnapping children, which is why it is critical that we push back against careless cuts like the one I just talked about. We need to reverse course. We need to restore the bipartisan tradition of support for investments that uphold our values and support our allies and strengthen our leadership. And if we want a peace deal to end this war, we have to make sure that Putin understands our resolve to stand by our allies will not waver. War crimes cannot be swept under the rug, and he can't get a better deal by walking away from the table and waiting us out. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm pleased that we're having this hearing today and to be here with so many others who are sending the message in a bipartisan way with our voices, and I hope we can send the same message with our laws, as well as by writing a very strong SFOPS bill that restores funding to help identify, track, and return victims of kidnapping, and restores the support to so many other worthy NGOs that have a long history of good work and bipartisan support, and that maintains robust support to Ukraine at this very critical moment. With that, Mr. Kuleba, wanted to ask you, can you talk a little bit more about the work you do to return Ukraine children to their families, and how governmental funding and coordination helps expand your ability to do so.
Thank you so much, Senator. And we built our system beginning from the investigators team who are searching these kids. And then, as I mentioned before, after rescue these kids, we provide rehabilitation, and we could find more information about that kids who stayed in occupied territories. And very often, these kids whose parents were killed or arrested or disappeared, and we have a little limit of time just to extract them from that territory. And we built a holistic system for their research, so their search, rescue, rehabilitation, and reintegration. And we have rehabilitation centers when more than 800 beds in our centers and 6 months rehabilitation program for both for families and children after reunification and for unaccompanied minors and orphans, because many children who've been rescued have draft notice for the Russian army. It's a huge risk. And we have kids who've been rescued from Russian foster families, from Russian military academies, even from the Russian army. And they are witnessing about war crimes, and they testimony how they've been forcibly taken to the Russian army. And it is thousands of Ukrainian children who are in such risk, and many of them who were taken, forcibly conscripted, and now fighting with us. Yeah. And that's why it's so important for us to find these kids and rescue them in time. And just last statistics, every 6 captured soldiers who are in our prisons from occupied territories, the young adults who've been Ukrainian children, who've been brainwashed and who've been forcibly conscripted. And they have to fight, they must fight, because if not, they will be jailed or just killed.
I can't even imagine. I mean, what you said in time is really critical, because if you take the pictures you had of 2-year-olds and then 11 years later, that's been their life. They don't remember much else, and rehabilitation must be extremely difficult. So in time is critically important, and why funding, Mr. Chairman, is so important as well. I am out of time, but I did want to ask Mr. Maximov, what is the single greatest obstacle that the United States faces in trying to compel Russia to return these abducted children?
Thank you for the excellent question. The reality is that for the Russians to return the kids, it is the same as testifying into committing a crime. Every single child returned has been a victim of a war crime. Mm-hmm. They can tell what happened to them. They can tell the law enforcement authorities what happened to the peers of theirs, what happened to their friends, what happened to their family members, what happened in towns they were born from. So that is very counter-instinctive for them to return the witnesses who would testify against them. And another huge obstacle that I think would any effort, any mediated or negotiated effort endure or face is they systematically try to downplay the crime. Despite hundreds and hundreds of names that have been submitted by Ukraine through different channels, from State of Qatar to the Vatican to Istanbulis, there were many of various attempts. There have never been a return of 20 kids even. The biggest number, I guess, it was around a dozen, while they have thousands of names. So I think those two things, it goes against the very logic for them to release the witnesses to their crime, and also they would be trying to do everything they can to downplay the scale.
Oh, thank you. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Senator Sheen.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Senator Schatz for holding this critical hearing, and thank you to all of our witnesses for your very important testimony. It's very clear that Vladimir Putin is trying to wipe Ukraine, its culture, and its history off the map. Senator Graham, I hope the Senate moves very quickly to pass your legislation, the Russia State Sponsor of Terrorism Bill, which would address this issue of children who have been kidnapped, and it's now time for Congress to act on that. Ambassador, there have been reports that the United States is considering de facto recognizing Russian control over occupied Ukrainian territories. I hope these reports are not correct, because I think this would invite further Russian aggression. But can you talk about what the consequences of that kind of recognition would mean for the Ukrainian children that we're talking about?
Thank you, Senator, for this question. Indeed, it's not a secret that there was a 28 points plan which was put on the table for the discussion, which eventually evolved into a 90-point plan after Geneva, and have been further discussed in Florida last weekend and have been discussed in Moscow by Steve Witkoff, Special Envoy of President Trump to President Putin. So at this point, it is clear and an official understanding that whatever is discussion about the territory is not, anything is not yet decided. But even if we're speaking about a ceasefire or stopping an existing line, this is also a condition that every person, whether it's a child or a grown-up on the occupied territory, have to have the right to leave the occupied territory and reunite back with their family, with their country. And this is not something that is being under discussion or under negotiations, whatever the settlement will be, even if it's just a ceasefire. At this point, being in occupation, it's also being in captivity, where people have no choice whether they stay in the occupation or flee to Russia. So Ukraine has the right to accept every Ukrainian from the occupied territory or deoccupy it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not sure, maybe Mr. Raymond, this question is best for you, but why is accountability for war crimes, or perhaps Mrs. Reshevska, why is the accountability for war crimes and the release of all people unjustly held so important for peace to be just and lasting?
Thank you for this excellent question. I will start, and maybe Nathaniel will add something. As a lawyer, I can tell that there is no fair and just peace without accountability processes for those who committed war crimes and crimes against humanity. It is needed not only for Ukrainian children and for Ukraine as a state. It is also needed for the international community to maintain the existing legal order and to avoid the repetition of all these atrocities in some other parts of our world. And also it should be noted that it also needed for Russians to avoid this resentment and to avoid the renewal of all these crimes and of all these atrocities in future in Ukraine or in some other parts of Europe. We see that Russians are militarizing children. Russians are preparing them to launch the new war of aggression. And that is why without accountability for them, we just can't stop all these processes. We cannot tell to the Office of the Prosecutor of the ICC to stop investigation. It is impossible under the Rome Statute. It is also impossible to stop the process of creation of the special tribunal for the aggression against Ukraine. It was already launched. And that is why I hope that in the near future, we will see the victory of justice.
Well, thank you. I was struck by the number of people on the first panel who mentioned the history of Europe and what happened with Germany and Adolf Hitler and the repetition that we're seeing now of those kinds of events. Mr. Raymond, did you want to add anything?
Yes, Senator Shaheen, the issue here is unique, specific to children. Underneath the Geneva Convention, there is something called the Special Protected Status, and it means children cannot be treated as hostages, spies, or POWs. So this is not just about Ukraine, it's about the future of all children in the wars of today and tomorrow. If we give the green light as the United States to treating kids like they're POWs or hostages, that special protected status is gone, and it's catastrophic.
Well, thank you both. I would like to just ask one more very brief question, if that's all right, Mr. Chairman, because Freedom House has documented that the Lukashenko regime in Belarus is complicit in the kidnapping of Ukrainian children. Can anyone speak to what we know about the scope of Lukashenko regime's involvement?
I would like to answer this question because my organization, Regional Center for Human Rights, cooperated with Freedom House. So for me, it is an honor to testify on behalf of both of our organizations. So as for the role of Lukashenko regime and the displacement of Ukrainian children to Belarus, since 2021 till 2024, we have documented 2,219 Ukrainian children who were displaced to 18 camps and other facilities in Belarus. But what is the fact? After our hearings last year in the United States Helsinki Commission, after all these sanctions imposed by those who organized these trips and re-education processes in Belarus, we see only 150 Ukrainian children in Belarus this year. It means that it had a frozen effect, at least. And one great example, it is about mayor of Novopolotsk. He was put under sanctions, and now there are no Ukrainian children in Novopolotsk.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Senator Murphy.
Thank you very much, Senator Graham. First, Mr. Raymond, thank you for the great work that you and your colleagues do. We're very proud to have you doing that work in New Haven, Connecticut. Appreciate you being here and telling us a harrowing but important story. I wanted to build on some of Senator Shaheen's questions. And Madam Ambassador, I appreciate you taking head on these discussions that are happening around a so-called peace plan. Frankly, as you know, many Republicans and Democrats in the Senate were caught off guard by a plan that looks to sell out Ukraine's interests in the name of a illusory peace that would only be for the short term. I maybe want to ask you a little bit more directly a version of the question that Senator Shaheen asked. Part of the draft plan would require Ukraine to give up territory that it now controls, areas that are not under Russian control right now. Does your government think that this would be fair for Ukraine to hand territory to Russia that Russia does not currently control?
Thank you, Senator, for this question. I'll try to be as precise as I can, to the extent I can, given that there is a very intensive phase of negotiating, and we fully submit to the tactics the President of the United States and his team is tackling to narrow the discussion and to mediate. So at this point, nothing in the plan, which have been discussed in Florida or in Geneva, which evolved in a 19-point plan, speaks about, has the word concession, swap, giving the territories to Russia. So what the discussion is about, all the other points, and as you know, following the statement also of the Russian president yesterday, this is not the issue which has been discussed over to find a solution. So these discussions are ongoing. Speaking about whether it's fair, of course it's not fair. This is not something that you can call justice. This is not something you can call complete. And we were able to withstand the largest military power only with Ukrainian army, and with the support of the United States and the whole world, the moral support, the financial support, and the military support. But it's only because we were able and we were backed up with our faith, we were able to withstand. This is not going anywhere, and this is the basis.
Nice to see you again. That was a long news conference we had before, wasn't it? Yeah, but it was a good one. Okay. Well, thank you very much, and we're thrilled to be joined by one of the most successful business leaders and people anywhere in the country, whether it's technology, no matter what business you're talking about, there's really nobody quite like him. He's chairman and CEO of Dell Technologies, make great everything, great computers, great everything. Michael Dell, very much of a legend, who's here with his really exciting announcement. It's so amazing, and much more importantly, he's here with his wonderful wife, Susan, and they have special relationship. I think I can say that, really. It's very nice. I don't see too much of it. I see the opposite, but I don't see too much. I have two special people. And I've seen that. I've known that for a long time, and I think it's a tremendous thing. Also, the CEO of Altamir Capital, Brad Gerstner. Where are you, Brad? Brad Gerstner is a terrific fellow who's very much involved in this incredible thing that we're doing today, along with the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, Treasury Secretary Scott Besson, Chairman of the Senate Committee on Commerce and Science and Transportation, Ted Cruz, House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Jason Smith, Vice Chairman of the House Republican Conference, Blake Moore, as well as the Chief Design Officer of the United States Airbnb co-founder, Joe Gebbia. I want to thank you all for being here. It's a great group. And I guess a potential Fed chair is here, too. I don't know. Are we allowed to say that? Potential. He's a respected person, that I can tell you. Thank you, Kevin. Today is Giving Tuesday. I don't know if anybody's heard that one before, but it is indeed Giving Tuesday, one of the biggest days of the year for philanthropy and charitable giving. And this afternoon, Michael and Susan Dell are committing to one of the largest private donations in American history, which will directly benefit the next generation of American children through the new Trump Accounts program that we created in our One Big Beautiful Bill. And Michael and Susan came to see me along with Brad, and they said, this is an idea. And I said, I think, it sounded just so good and so unique. But that's why he's been so successful, and they've been so successful in life and in business because they're unique. Trump Accounts will be the first, I guess you could say, real trust funds for every American child, allowing family members, employers, corporations, generous donors to contribute money that will be invested and grow over the course of a child's life to be used for their benefit after they turn 18. So in other words, these are children that are an investment's going to be made. That investment's going to continue to grow, we hope, right? We hope. And, but it will. And they'll feel like Michael Dell someday. But at 18, they'll have a lot of money, a lot more money than they would have had, and potentially a lot of money. But these accounts will track the overall stock market and will be 100% private property controlled by the child's guardians. In honor of America's 250th anniversary, the Dells are announcing today that they are giving 25 million American children $250 each to save and to invest in their personal Trump account. Now, that's the equivalent of $6.25 billion. In other words, to put it succinctly, Michael and Susan are giving $6.25 billion in total, and as a total contribution. That's big stuff. I don't care who you are. That's big. Come here, give me a hand. Let me have a little of that luck rub off. That's fantastic, Susan. These gifts will be available to the first 25 million children aged 10 and under the zip codes where their median income is $150,000 or less. So they're giving them to children that won't be born particularly rich, and they're going to be hopefully very rich someday. This will give millions of dollars, millions of children, middle-class families a stake in American prosperity, a benefit from the rising stock market, and a better shot at the American dream. It really gives them a shot at the American dream. Michael and Susan, I want to thank you for this extraordinary act of kindness and patriotism and charity. This is truly one of the most generous acts in the history of our country. I mean, you don't hear about things like that. And we got to let people know he doesn't want and she doesn't care about that. But I do. I think when somebody does that, you got to let them know about it. As I mentioned, this gift is being made possible by the largest tax cuts in American history, which our Republican majorities passed earlier this year, and the Speaker worked so hard, and John Thune and Jason and all of them, every one of them. Ted Cruz is with us. He worked so hard getting that done. That was the biggest, most consequential bill they say ever passed. And you know, if they remember, Michael, they thought we had to put that in 12 to 14 bills. I said, I don't know if we can hold it that long with the Democrats. And we said, let's try doing it once. So we did, and people were surprised, but we got it done. So I congratulate you guys. Amazing job. Under that bill, the federal government will also automatically be making a one-time seed contribution of $1,000 into the tax-deferred Trump accounts for every newborn U.S. citizen, fulfilling a promise I made in the 2024 campaign. Trump accounts should grow to be worth many thousands of dollars by the time the child is 18, and even more by the time they are 20 or even 30 years old. We think it's going to be something really unique and really special. We hope many others will follow Michael and Susan's example and make their own contributions. I'll be doing it too, to the next generation, including businesses, churches, philanthropists, family members, and parents themselves. I think we're going to have a lot of people, Susan. I think a lot of people are going to be contribute. A lot of people are watching us right now. They might not be $6 billion plus, but there'll be a lot. There aren't too many people that are in the 6 billion range, but there'll be a lot. A lot of friends of mine have already told me they're going to contribute a lot of money, and a lot of them are going to leave a lot of money in their wills, so that's very important. And as you watch us today, I hope you'll be doing that. Contributions to Trump accounts will also be a great benefit for employers to offer their workers, which they'll be able to do tax-free. It's tax-free. We expect hundreds of major companies to announce plans to contribute to these accounts in the coming months, and we've had tremendous interest in that regard. So the Trump accounts will be available starting on July 4th of next year. And Michael and Susan, to you again, it's an amazing act of just incredible everything. I mean, the life you've led to be able to do this, even to be able to, even a lot of people have a good heart, but they can't give $6.25 billion. And Michael, probably knowing you, it's not the last of it either. It's not the last. But on behalf of the United States of America, I want to thank you both, and I want to thank all three. But I want to thank you both because you've been friends of mine, and it's a spectacular couple. This is really an amazing people. These are unique. And I'd like to have you come up and say a couple of words and tell us what you have in mind, because what you have in mind is good. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. It's a great honor to be with you here in the White House. And, you know, when you passed the Invest America Act on July 4th of this year, we were really inspired to see that happen. And this is something that, you know, Brad had first mentioned to us in 2021. We thought it was a great idea then, and it's amazing that it happened. And we also saw that this act would become a platform. And, you know, we believe the smartest investment that we can make is an investment in children. And this act has created a platform for families and friends and communities and companies and philanthropists to contribute to these accounts to create a savings and opportunity and hope and prosperity for tens of millions of children in this country. And Susan and I are super excited to announce our $6.25 billion gift to 25 million American children, 10 and under, and our gift will cover most of the children that are 10 and under that are not part of the federal program, the 0 to 2-year-olds, and who also live in zip codes where the median income is $150,000 or less. And I have spoken with a number of other wealthy Americans, philanthropists, and we are confident that others will join us because we all understand the incredible impact that a gift like this can have on the lives of young Americans. So again, it's a great honor for us to be here to be able to announce this. You know, when I was 8 years old, I got a passbook savings account, and I had, I think, about $8 in it. And you go to the savings and loan, and you give them a quarter, and they'd stamp your account. And I got to see the power of compound interest early in my life. And that has brought me here to this moment. And hopefully will inspire that kind of opportunity for many more young people in this country. So again, thank you for the privilege of being here.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Susan. So beautiful. Thank you very much. Susan, would you like to say something?
I'd just like to say how excited we are to be a part of this. We believe that when children have a future that they can see is worth saving for, then that will help build hope and opportunity and prosperity for generations to come. So we're so excited to be doing this and hope to have many people join in our efforts. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Susan. So beautiful. Brad,
Well, first, it's an incredible honor to be here, and we wouldn't be here without the passage of the Invest America Act, and everybody up here today played a role in getting that done. The Speaker, Ted Cruz, in drafting the legislation so that when the President placed the call to the Speaker and said, let's make this happen in the big, beautiful bill, Congress was ready to act. They had the legislation drafted. But I couldn't be more grateful for the friendship and the partnership of the Dells that really show the best of America. Today is Giving Tuesday, right? And the fact of the matter is, for decades, we've talked about the wealth gap. We've talked about too many people left out and left behind. This president was elected on a Main Street agenda to get the rest of America into the game. And that's exactly what this does. It gets every American child, 3.7 million children born every year.
All right. Well, there you have it. I wanted to make sure we got in the Trump account for kids. I think anything that's going to help out, middle class, lower class, anyone under that $150,000 a year mark is a great thing. So good deal. Hopefully there's not too many loopholes and pain points in it. Hopefully it's a nice, easy process, but I see the benefit. I think it's a great idea, and hopefully it works out for the better. All right, y'all. It's been a long one today. We covered a lot of topics, a lot of news updates. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a fantastic evening, and I will see you next time. Thanks for hanging out on the Gabriel Speaks podcast. Enjoy the rest of your day, y'all.